Well, hello, everybody. Welcome. Hopefully, you had yourselves a really good weekend. I know it's a gorgeously sunny day, but just north of me, it's flooding like crazy all around the island here. Well, of course, it's a very big island, but still, it's an island. So I don't know how we seem to be sitting in this pocket of sun, but it has been gorgeously beautiful all morning, even though there are flood warnings popping off all around me. So I don't know why, but I got myself let's see, a lukewarm cup of coffee, and chatting with beginning a chat with friends. Thunder is going to be a little bit late, but nevertheless, hopefully you had yourselves a good weekend. I know I stayed home and did nothing, and it was wonderful. Hopefully you had something similar. Uh, everyone, you know, resting up after your crazy Fourth of July weekends. Oh wait, I didn't see any celebrations at all. Hopefully, you guys had some somewhere though, but nothing made it on the internet. Usually, I see like there's fireworks and concerts and something pops up, but I could have went and searched it, I suppose, but nothing popped up. I mean, every year something pops up, but nothing popped up this year. So I don't know. But hopefully, you guys had yourselves some fun. Nevertheless, let me go over here and like and share and let everybody know that we are here. And today we are going to be talking a little bit about, actors and the now actor strike. Just keep in mind, it's not just the writers that are striking. No, now the actors are striking. And they seem to be very concerned about, well, money. They don't seem to make enough. Okay. But more importantly than that, AI. Yeah, they're really concerned about that. So, as they should be. And I've noticed that, and I'm sure you have as well, that a lot of people are pushing back about this against this AI. All of a sudden, we got these things that are basically making it illegal. You can't copyright AI unless you own the software. Well, that's convenient. That's nice. I'm glad to hear someone's going to be making some money. But it's not going to be us or anybody else, and I got to let you be a creative. You might have good ideas. They don't. They can't stand. They can't take the competition. I mean, look how they're doing. I mean, they're losing money left and right. It's bad enough. Doing it themselves have to deal with us. So we'll see how it all works out though, because they are panicking. Maybe you know, knee jerk reaction a little bit. Might be a little bit too soon, but we'll see how that works out. Anyway, I see we've got Roger and Dave in here. Hello. Yes, strike. Uh, I haven't played bowling in a long time. I actually like bowling. I'm not very good. I'm usually around 140, 150 or something. You know, not good. I think my best game I ever had was just a touch over 200, and that was like once. I don't think I ever touched 200 again. However, my wife, who is naturally athletic, is good at all sports for some reason. She rolls 200 quite regularly when we used to play when we were younger. So there's that. One of those sports I figured I because I was a pretty good fencer when I was a kid, and I kind of figured, ping pong would, kind of cross the lines there. But no, no, I suck. I suck really bad at ping pong. My wife is absolutely stellar. I can't even come close to winning. But then again, she's an actual athlete. I was good at a couple things, kind of. So it is what it is. Um, let's see here. Roger says, Chester, how can you be having weather problems when the Earth is flat? Fair, sir. That is fair. Here, you want to have one that really mess with your head, Roger. Take this into account. We have a lot of evidence and more scientists that are leaning on the fact that the sun is 100% responsible for our weather. And you have some of these models they've worked out that are 93%, something like that, accurate. It's pretty good. That's pretty good. It's much more accurate than, say, a meteorologist. But nevertheless, they, excuse me, modern science wants to put the kibosh on the whole idea of solar creation of weather. But here's the thing, that'll boggle your mind. If you've ever been just a sailor, a person that likes boats, which is a lot of people. It's quite popular, especially outside of Asia. But every day when you get up, depending on the kind of boat you have, and you got to go out, you have to check what the water looks like. Because when you get up in the morning, that real water that they're talking about on the news isn't going to hit you until like the afternoon, really, because it takes a while for the wind to come up. Now, this is a very standard term for any sailor on Earth. The wind will come up. So a lot of times sailors, if they have to get to a destination, they try to leave pretty early, as soon as the light's cracking, and get it done. If you have something that's within a few hours, you want to get it done in the early morning because the wind's coming up. Now, how is it that the wind comes up only when the sun is out? Huh. It's kind of interesting, don't you think? And keep in mind that sailors have been saying this for, I don't know, 30,000 years, probably more. But so I guess we just need a weather science person to just, I don't know, take a boat trip, I guess. Maybe they'll learn something. But nevertheless, it's always good, Roger, for you to your conspiracy theories. It's great. Everyone was worrying about robot burger floppers. Yeah, well, why not? Especially at a place like McDonald's. I mean, all the difficulties they seem to have in these fast food restaurants over in America, particularly. I mean, there's like a place called the what was it called, the Waffle House or the Waffle something. Seems to be ground zero, dude. You want to go there. But yeah, I mean, if I could use robots to run my restaurant, I think I'd do that. I think I'd do that. Yeah. That would be a lot cheaper and a lot easier and a lot less troublesome. However, it depends on where you are. There are plenty of places in the world where your service, even at a fast food, is great. The people smile and they actually try very hard to cook even though it's very simple, they try to cook it very correctly every single time. I live in a place like that. Matter of fact, first time I went into an American fast food here in Japan, I was like, eh? I was befuddled because, they're not that good, but they are because they take their job very seriously. They try to do a good job. I know, shocking, working at McDonald's and trying to do a good job. It's like, what's the world coming to? I still think that floppers would probably be better. Dave says the Earth never orbits the sun the same way twice. Yeah, but yet we have seasons. Go figure, Dave. It does actually, well, as far as the science says, it does, orbit the sun the same way. It just takes, 20,000 years, but, who's counting? But technically, you are right because we are hurtling through space. So you're talking about 200 and like a quarter of century. I mean, a quarter of a million years, a quarter of a million years, I guess we would find ourselves in the same position. But that's assuming that we're perfectly on the galactic ecliptic, and I would imagine that there's no such thing. But let's assume that we do orbit the galaxy perfectly within the ecliptic, and it's the same every time. So we're looking at a quarter of a million years. You'd be in the same position, but you're probably right. Yeah, yeah. We're going to go with Dave on this one. Yeah, definitely going with Dave on this one. Anyway, how was your weekend, Dave? Hey, lady, did you do anything fun? Like I said, mine was super quiet, man. I just kind of chilled out. I read. Oh, it was nice. I actually read some stuff this weekend that it wasn't work related. I've actually started to read the Foundation series. I heard it was good, so I'm going to check it out. I started reading that and chatted with my wife. I watched a lot of boating videos because I like boating visit videos. She hates them, but it's okay. She's always watching stupid baby videos anyway. Yes, they. Hey there, pretty lady. Oh, that's nice, Roger. He offers flowers. If you're ready for what is it? Tuesday, lady. Your character survived. We're it's nice for me. I get to take a break, let someone else run, and I could just play, which is kind of cool. And we're doing Puffin's gaming system on our Bugbear's basement. It's all right. It's not. It's got some good ideas in it. It just needs to be kind of polished up, which is what basically the whole point of what we're doing is. Um, but he does have a few good ideas in there actually. It's a very different feeling kind of game than we usually play. I actually been looking because I've created a lot of systems over the years just for fun, and I'm looking at one to polish up. Maybe we'll give that a try someday. Uh, you know, it's not as it's not super unique though. It's kind of like, but then again, they're all very similar, aren't they? But nevertheless, uh, Dave says I bought a bunch of cool back issue comics at Engelteen's auction. Dude, that's very nice. How's Engelteen doing? I went on his channel once. That was actually pretty fun. They never called me back though because I think they brought me in to lose against that some guy, and I didn't, and I don't think they were happy about it. Anyway, lady says I had two pickup trucks that came up to my house expecting me not to be here. Oh, yeah. Yeah, she's ready. I don't know what that means though. Yeah, no, Roger's got it going on. Yeah, I'm not sure what that means, Roger. Does that mean that all there were family party ensued? Were they was there criminal intent? I don't know, lady. You're gonna have to elaborate upon that. That's yeah, it's a bit worrying. Yeah. What issues did you get, Dave? That's cool. I haven't bought a comic book in forever. I mean, of course, I'm nowhere near a comic book shop. It's kind of part of the problem. Although, yeah, well, last time I was in Tokyo, I actually did buy a comic book. What am I talking about? I did. There are a few handful of Western style comic book stores in Tokyo. You got to dig them out, and they are stuck up in the corner somewhere. But there's one. It's about the size of your toilet. And you can't walk around because there's nerds everywhere. So you kind of have to go in a cyclical motion with everybody, waiting for the next person to take a step before you can see what's on that wall. It's one of those little teeny places. It's surprising here in Japan or Asia in general. You see a lot of these super teeny places, and it's like, man, how did they make money? I'm wondering how they make money up here in the northern eastern part. When you go down to Southeast Asia, they just kind of let their legs out because they got room. So their places tend to be a little bit bigger. I'm actually I'm a big fan of Thailand. I've enjoyed going down there. Had my honeymoon there. It's a great, wonderful place, wonderful people. I definitely want to go to Vietnam. I wouldn't mind to go to Cambodia. Got to get to Vietnam though because they're just booming, man. They're doing good business, doing a good job. They're going through that same process. So, uh, let's see here. Lady is giving us some information. She says, Ready to play for Tuesday. The truck, I think we're here to rob me. Oh, I see. That's great. Awesome. Dave says, Bronze Age Hulk, Defender, Superman, Action Comics, World's Finest, some war stuff. Oh, nice. That's very nice. Hey, Grimlock, what's up, dude?
What is going on, Mr. Busby?
Oh, not much. I'm just chatting about their weekends and what they were up to. Lady was almost robbed. Uh, Dave went and got some Engeltine auction comics, which is nice. I have
Those
no
are,
idea.
he usually has some good stuff.
Yeah, no, I like Engeltine. I did go. If you, I don't know if you remember, I went on his show once, right?
Hmm.
And they were having like this competition, and I was against just some guy. Um,
Oh,
yeah, which
that
I
was
like.
way back.
It
Holy
was way
shit.
back. But it was way, way back. But I remember, because I like just some guy. I like his content. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a real YouTuber. We're not. We're just goofing, right? But they brought. I think I didn't understand. I think I was being a bit oblivious because
Ah,
I was like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, I'll go. Why not? Right? And that's about my attitude on it. And so it was just a little fun. There was they had a panel that was judging, and one of the guys kept trying to pull Robert's rules on me. And I
hmm,
was like, yeah, we're just goofing off, having a competition about anime, dude. Chill. Anyway, but they did. They asked us a bunch of questions, and we had a short time to respond, and I won, but
yeah.
barely. But I don't think I was supposed to.
Hmm,
I think the point was for me to lose, and I
yeah.
wasn't aware enough to see that. They should have just told me, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they never invited me back.
Oh,
Yeah, it's okay. I do like their content though. But
yeah.
yeah. So how was your weekend?
Pretty good. It's been quiet.
Yeah, no, I had a nice
It
and
is.
quiet too.
Roger, it has been hot and humid all fucking week.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
It's it's one of those weeks in the where it'll storm for about 5 minutes and it'll be hot and humid the rest of the night, the rest of the day.
Yeah, no, I remember when I lived down in Mobile, Pensacola, down in that area. It's
Hmm.
like around 1 o'clock, 10 minutes every day, rain. Yeah,
Yeah.
every day. And then when you got actual rain, you literally couldn't see the hand in front of you.
Yep.
Yeah, crazy. But the thing is, there was never any flooding though, because they built these great canals and moved water around really good. It's kind of weird over here in Japan, and they do a lot of ocean work to try to protect themselves from tsunamis, and they do a lot of things like that. But every year
Yeah.
we get flooding that causes lots of damage here or there, somewhere. It's just a constant cycle, and it was like. Can't the Japanese manage what the people in Mobile have? I mean, come on, they're Southerners. Jeez.
Yeah.
Did I insult enough people there, you think?
Maybe.
Maybe. I'll try harder
It
next
depends
time.
on it depends on who takes offense.
Mm, that's true. I'm pretty good at offending all sides at the same time. Maybe that's why they didn't invite me back.
Yeah.
Mm,
No,
yeah.
I think he's usually good at inviting whoever wants to come on.
No, that's I'm just goofing. I didn't interact. I wasn't really, like, ooh, I'm going to be on another channel. I didn't really care. At that time, I jump on people's channels all the time because I didn't have to work in the mornings. I just had my school and university. But now I have government stuff. I had to like cancel. I think I was only like 2 hours before the show or something like that for the Drone Recorder last week because we had a bit
Wow.
of a panic. Yeah. Um, some jagoff somewhere, I don't even know where, somewhere in Japan, decided he was going to take his little truck and run over a bunch of kids at school. Luckily, no one
Oh,
died, but a couple of them got busted up pretty bad. And I'm sure it seemed the people there thought it was initially an accident, but no, he was screaming he did it on purpose. But whatever. I have no idea exactly. I don't even know where it was. I don't know what happened to him. I know, of course, he got arrested. But I do know that a prefectural wide call into the office took place.
Mm.
Yes, and they were sitting. How do we keep our kids safe? And I was like, I didn't say anything. I just kind of shut. I don't even know why I'm there. I mean, honestly, but I just sat there and was like, yeah, it sucks, but the dude already broke a law. He's going to jail.
Yeah.
We don't need new laws. You know, we shouldn't overreact. Now we don't have the litigious nature, say America, and every time anything bad happens, all of a sudden there's a new law, even though there's 58 laws already on the books. America.
Yeah.
But they were kind of in that mode, and I have to
It was
be
an
there.
isolated wacko. Leave it as isolated wacko.
Yeah, and those things you count on. I can't even get all fingers on one hand how many times something like that's happened in the past 20 years. I mean, let's see. Weirdos kidnapping, doing weird shit to little kids twice. Okay, that's twice in 20 years. That sucks, but only twice. Wacko with a knife in public, just doing bad things. Two times maybe. If we count the guy who shot Abe, we'll go three. Okay. This truck thing was the first time I ever heard something like that. But yeah, we don't get a lot of that here in Japan. Not much. You do kind of get that Asian, weird Asian thing. It seems to be very Asian, where
Yeah.
they're just they're just bored with life and they decide they go out and kill someone, and then when you ask them why, it's like, I'm just curious.
So wacko.
Yeah, it's a wacko. It happens, but you do have that kind of syndrome around Asia. It's a little different than I've ever seen in the West. There's just this kind of mentality. Now here in Japan, like I said, twice since I've been here, that's happened. Because the Abe thing, that dude had a grudge, right? There was a reason, right? I wouldn't even classify that in the same category. But China gets it happening all the time. Depression and
Yeah.
sadness and oppression. Just makes people pop. In the West, we always find some excuse for it, of course. But
Yeah.
no, they're just a wacko. You're right. So, um,
So what are the punishments Japan has for things like that?
oh
For the
well, it depends. Imprisonment, execution, pretty standard shit. They hang you here, though, I think, or do they? I think they
good.
do. Yeah,
Good.
no, I guess. They take forever to do it, and then when they decide to do it, it's like instant. So, but
Mhm.
I, you know, you don't get that much crime here, so you don't hear much about it. I think the Russians are the most efficient in that way because if you're found guilty of a capital crime and therefore execution is involved, because there's you have to go to the really wacky Islamic countries to get executed quick for menial things, right? I mean, shit. You
Yeah.
got the modern softening of Sharia law. If you're a little kid who's starving and you steal a piece of bread, instead of cutting off your hands, now they just break your hands underneath of a car tire wheel. It's
Oof.
evolved. It's gotten better. You know, I suppose. But
It's a rough lesson.
it is, and I understand there's an argument for it. But the Russians are very clean about it. If you get convicted of a capital crime, they just take you, throw you into like a closet, and it's got a hole in it, and they put a gun through it and shoot you in the head. Quick, done.
Hmm.
You know. I don't know. You might find this weird, Grimlock, but I'm not actually a proponent of capital punishment. The execution, I mean. You would,
Surprised by that.
yeah. Well, a lot of people probably are, but it's a logical problem for me. How can the punishment for murder be murder? You see what I mean?
Reciprocity.
I understand reciprocity. I'm not even saying it's necessarily wrong. I understand why we took, justice out of the hand of the public and put it into private or state hands because there'd be a lot of killing going on, which there was. That's
Yeah.
why we did that. But yeah, I understand the family being really upset. I get that 100%. But
Well,
I never understood the murder for murder.
it depends. Because for me, like, I understand people having a bad day.
Mm,
Right?
hmm.
Some people can have a really bad day.
Really bad
Things
day.
get out of
Oh
hand.
yeah,
You do something you don't mean, or you say something you don't mean.
that's right. Sure.
But there are people who have a pattern, a known pattern, and there's nothing you can do with a person like that. I
That's true.
mean, we have seen people go to jail for murder, get out, and go right back in within a year
Oh
for the
yeah,
same.
the
So
revolving door. Yeah.
no, not for people like that. There shouldn't be. It's like, okay, you had your chance. You know, you had your time to reflect. You know, rehabilitate, whatever, and you're right back out to the same old shit. Okay, we got something for you.
Yeah, no, I do understand. I understand most subjects. I understand all sides actually. I always thought the death one was a bit weird. Raj says it gives the meaning an eye for an eye, a deeper meaning, doesn't it? Well, that's coming from the laws of Ashurbanipal. Actually, I know a lot of people attest that to the Bible, and it is in the Bible. But keep in mind, Abraham was Sumerian. You know, people seem to forget that. It's almost as if the Bible like, took place in some weird dark dimension. Now, it happened, in the Middle East. There was history going on around it, right? But yeah,
Yep.
Ashurbanipal, that's his laws. He literally had eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, and all kind of other little fines and penalties. It's quite interesting looking at ancient law. It's nowhere near as strict as today, dude.
Yep.
Especially America. America over incarcerates. There's a lot of places that if you commit murder, you get like 5, 7 years in jail. But in America, what is it like forever?
Yep.
Yeah. So Americans are extremely litigious culture, and they also tend to incarcerate for radical lengths of time. You know. However, a lot of states used to have capital punishment, of course, and they've gotten rid of it over the years. But would you like to guess what was the worst execution in history that we know of?
Hmm. What would that be?
I do believe he was European. I can't remember exactly which country. Austria, maybe. Maybe it was in Venice. I mean, not Venice. Shoot, what's that Austrian city? Yeah. What is the name of that city? Venice is the one with the water. This one is in Austria. Um,
Vienna.
Vienna, thank you. Yeah, the sausage state, right? But
Well,
think it was there. But basically, the guy committed patricide, which means he killed the leader, right?
hmm.
Assassinated a leader, and they, over the course of several days, they ripped the skin off of his body. They broke all his bones, tied him to the wheel rack, boiled him and then beheaded, dismembered, and disemboweled him.
Damn, they really hated his
Yeah,
ass.
they hated his ass. They were mad. They were pretty
Shit,
mad.
Mussolini didn't get that.
No, most of them don't. I'd say the worst death we've seen from a leader in modern times would be Muammar Gaddafi, which is a shame because he was probably the most useful leader.
Thanks, Obama.
So, they killed him with a knife rectally.
Oof.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty bad. But it's good. Libby is all better now. Much better now. Hillary Clinton came, she saw, and he died. But Libby is way better now. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see here. Roger says, Crystal McGee, how are you doing today? Hopefully fantastic and welcome. Oh, that's nice. Roger's a nice guy. He's very nice. But anyway, did you watch any movies or read any books or do anything interesting this weekend?
Um, well, I, the Nagoya, I think that's how you say it, Nagoya
Nagoya. Yeah,
Basho started last night, so I got to watch the first night of that.
that's right. You like sumo. It is interesting. I run into a few foreigners here or there that like sumo. Uh,
Mm,
yeah, Nagoya is the proper pronunciation. It's yeah, it's a place.
yeah,
I don't think
so I
I've
got
ever
to
been there
watch
though.
got to watch that. Far as movies, no, I don't think I watched any. I don't think I watched a single movie this week.
No,
I've
it's been a while, huh?
actually no, I've actually been reading Batman: The Adventures Continue.
Oh, nice. There you go. A little bit of comic books.
Yeah, I don't know if they're still doing that book, but if they are, I would easily say it's the best thing DC is doing. It's the
Oh,
only thing it's the only thing I would recommend. Um, if for those who are not familiar, Batman: The Adventures Continue is I guess you could say a direct continuation of the animated series. It's written by
oh, nice.
Paul Dini and Alan Burnett, and they also went out of their way to continue the style of the show in the books, which I appreciate.
Hmm.
And I'm reading volume one, and most of the first volume is how they brought Red Hood into that universe. Actually, I thought it was pretty well done. It also had the supporting cast really kind of lay it on Bruce for not addressing Jason's you know more brutal nature early on.
Oh, I see. So they're kind of backtracking and telling an Elseworlds world story.
I guess you could say because the animated series wasn't a one for one, so they're
No, that's true.
putting things in as I guess it would fit in their world. They brought in Jean Paul Valley, which I liked. Like most of what they've done in that, just about everything they've done in that, liked. So I mean, compared to what they have currently, yeah, I'd be the only one I'd recommend.
Well, I did read a comic recently. It's not an American one, but it was a netizen comic that I'm sure that
Hmm.
person has been arrested and disappeared into a dark hole. But it was coming out of China, and it was the Chinese Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, and the whole thing was mocking Xi Jinping. It's funny, Chinese made too.
Oh man,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
and
I hope whoever wrote that, I hope he is somewhere safe and happy and writing more.
well, it was certainly written in a Cantonese style, so but which means he's in the south. But you got to keep in mind Beijing in the north and Shanghai in the south.
Hmm.
We're seeing Shanghai suffer. They're being punished because the old Chinese leader who died just recently. That she was kind of trying to box out, which his whole career was about boxing that guy out. But he's the one that actually he was corrupt as shit. I mean, ridiculous level of corrupt. But he's also the one
Yeah.
that kind of forced China open up, and they were things were looking good. They were starting to make money, and people were having fun. Foreigners were welcome. It was a nice period about you know 20 years ago, 16 years ago, something like that. Like 20 years ago, so I think it started. But it was good. China was coming up. They were being more open and friendly. They were making money. But she, the new leader, he really wants to be Mao Zedong, which I don't know why, because every single solitary thing Mao Zedong did was a failure. I mean, literally, but he really wants to be him, I guess. And so finally the old man died, so he's taking reciprocity, as you like to say, on the South, which is, of course, his power base was Shanghai. And he's really putting it to the Cantonese. He's trying to make their language illegal. A lot of their projects have been shut down. Their leaders have been arrested. It's a real shit show, dude. A real shit show. It's really a North versus South thing, and you're seeing the Southerners, the Cantonese, really start to push back hard
Like
against
good.
it. Yeah, no, no. And of course, over in Hunan to the west, they're just kind of been there, they're squabbling over in the east, right? In the west, southwest. And those guys are just being screwed and they're upset because they have no money. They can't get their harvest in. It's a shit. It's really, China's an incredible shit show right now. And it's interesting to me in the West, I see these arguments saying from one side that China is going to collapse in a day, which ain't happening, right? Or the other side of the argument, China's great. You just don't understand. Don't listen to propaganda. They're both wrong. They're both wrong. China is a shit show, an absolute shit show, because they're just so corrupt. The corruption is so deep that the only way you can even imagine getting by is to be corrupt as well. And this is the cycle. This is the problem. That's why nothing can be made. Like for instance, they had their airplane. They're so proud they have their first Chinese-made airplane. Now, keep in mind, almost every part of this airplane is made in Europe or America, right? But even though they have this technology and these parts coming from Europe, the connecting parts, the bolts and the tubes and the wires and all that kind of shit, they're making that themselves, and this is therefore their claim to their airplane because they're putting it together, even though they're not making any of the important parts. But even with that, Grimlock, even with that the engines are from Germany and etc. All the parts of it are from other places except for the connecting points. Even though they can't put the damn plane together right because some asshole is going to chintz on money and not get the right screws or not do the right collaboration because they can get a cheaper version or do a cheaper thing of it and put the rest of the money in their pocket, the designated money. This is China. That the damn plane can't even go 3 or 4 days in a row working properly. Genius. Absolute genius.
That's pretty shitty.
It's China. That's why their
Yeah.
electric cars, literally, when you drive them, they wobble because they didn't use the proper materials in the chassis. They know how. Keep in mind that the Chinese have been working with Toyota and Volvo for decades. Let me say that again, decades. And they still can't build a goddamn car because some asshole at whatever company
Mm.
is chintzing on the steel for the chassis because they put the rest of the
Yep.
money in their pocket, right? Their electric cars
Especially
are
those two
blowing up.
companies.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, it's one thing if you was learning from, cheap asses in this country. You're learning from Volvo and freaking
Toyota.
Toyota.
Yeah.
You should have something that's decent.
No, they know how. They just can't get around the corruption, right? And then you
Hmm.
have another problem with like the electric cars because they're really pushing. Look at us. Look at how great we have so many electric cars. You Westerners are slow, but yet millions of those things are made because that's the quota they need to make so that they get their money right, from the government. But what do they do with all these cars? They can't sell them. So there literally are millions of electric cars just put into forests and parking lots and grass lots, just parked around China, just parked. Because the whole intention of it was simply to get the government funding because you got your quota, right? Because it's communism, right?
Well,
You got to have that quota, right? I mean,
yep.
everything in China is like this. It's so insanely corrupt. And then you put on top of it that you have this kind of, well, right now it's an economic civil war between the North and the South. I have a feeling it's going to spark into something else soon because they're really sick of it. Like you have other problems, right? You have all these kids going to university, right? And they go and they work hard. These aren't like American kids that can't tell you where Georgia is or don't know when the world wars were. Oh, it's in the 17th century, some nonsense that you get out of these kids. These kids over here in Asia, they study their ass off. They study their ass off. So they're going to be automatically smarter than the majority of kids in, say, America. Not because they necessarily are smarter, just because they actually do the work, right? So in Japan, you get paid off for it. They have a beautiful system here where you go through the education system, you go into the university, and you go into a job. This is perfect little train of movement, right? That, you don't have now, there's not necessarily the funnest thing, it's not necessarily exciting, but you're going to go right through the system, going to have a job, you're going to be good, right? They have this really, really good system here. Over in China, these kids are, you'll have parents will literally sell their daughters into prostitution so as to make money for the son's education, right? Literally, this happens all the time in China. Prostitution is off the charts. It might be the country with the most prostitutes in the world, right? And But even though they go to university, they get their education, they study hard, they pass their tests, then they get out of university. What do? Right? There's no jobs. There's nothing
Yep.
to do. There's nowhere to go. So the big trend that's going on in China right now is all these kids from university, they go back home and they become what they call true and loving children. Now, what they mean by
Hmm.
this is some will just go home and just live at home and do nothing, but they go home and
Damn.
they basically become kind of like a maid slash nanny at the house, even though it's their family, to have some meaning in life. Because the thing here in China is the parents have their pensions and they have money, they work. The kids have nothing, so it's the opposite of what you would expect. The old people are taking care of the young, not the other way around. So good job, China.
That that's not sustainable.
No, you think? I would think not. But the funny thing with that is just south, you have another little communist country that we Americans should know intimately called Vietnam. And now, what would you expect Vietnam would have looked like after we left? What would you expect, right?
The north or the south side
That
of
well,
Vietnam.
after we left, they unified into all communists. They became a communist country. The North won, basically. Yeah,
Um, I would expect it to be rather messy.
rather messy, right? Because that's what we see. But actually, Vietnam, because no one paid attention. We went in, we
Hmm.
got what we wanted, and that's all. That was good enough, and no one cared about Vietnam or talked about it since. But in truth, the government, even though it was a communist government, shockingly tried to help the workers. It's really interesting. Especially the farmers. A lot of communists go in and attack and destroy the farmers, which of course is stupid. Look what Stalin did. Look what Mao did. Look what Castro did, etc. Look at Africa. My God, right? But the Vietnamese were like the opposite. Like we're all brother communists now, but the farmer is the most important part of our society. So let's make sure they can be successful. And they could every decade that went by, they put better and better and better policies in place to make sure the farmers felt comfortable, that they had ambition and motivation. All those kind of things you want to do to actually be successful. And here today, Vietnam is one of the top agricultural countries on earth. There are several products that they are the number one producer of, including cashew nuts,
Mhm.
right? Number two in the world for coffee. Did you know that?
Did not know that.
No. You would think it would be somewhere in Africa or South America or something like that. But no, it's Viet frickin' Nam, right? Which, of course,
Mm.
getting your agriculture up and getting it working real well will help your industry to pick up, which it has. And modern day Vietnam, you should go visit. Have a vacation. It's wonderful. It's
Hmm.
beautiful. It's grown up. It's becoming they're really pushing the garment industries and other industries. They're doing well. Their agriculture is netting them $60 billion a year. Wow. Vietnam, man. Communism can be done well. I'm sure there's bad points too, obviously, but it can. If you have a group of leaders who actually care about the people, communism can work. It can. The problem is the people who are in charge tend not to give a shit about anything other than themselves. Hey, Thundero.
I like that transition right to me.
Yes. Well, I have
How is
been.
the Busby?
I'm doing well, and I've been told that I am eloquent.
Well, um, no, you can be. You can be. I'm sure if you're actually doing a formal uh, oration of some description, you're probably very eloquent.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I'm dangerous, is what I am.
yeah, I always was too. That's why they kept trying to get me to be a preacher. Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
when I was
preacher.
younger,
I should have been a lawyer. I'd be
I
rich
would have
now.
been a ridiculously good lawyer,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I know.
there's too much ceremony in
It's
courtrooms,
too
and I
scuzzy.
can't be bothered. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not only the scuzziness, but there's all the ridiculous sanctimonious ceremony, like standing up and then sitting down. You got to wait. And you got to. It's just, come on. This is a much slower method of getting to the truth than just letting me argue about it.
Well, there's
I
this.
promise you, I'll get there.
Yeah. Well, there's this guy called Roberts, and he had some
Yeah,
frickin' rules. You know,
yeah,
it's very
yeah.
English. You know how the English
All these
are.
made up English rules that we
Yes.
follow. It's
They're
very odd.
they're very weird and pompous and
But they really
upright.
did want me to be a preacher, to the point where the high school I went to was a Christian academy, and I was the chaplain of it for a long time because they really wanted to groom me to be some sort of preacher because one, I have a very what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, my voice carries a lot.
Oh yeah.
I don't even have to speak loudly for you to hear it across the room. Has a lot of that in it, and when I want to be, and when especially if I'm prepared, I can be a ridiculous speaker. Like it's stupid. To the point where the pastor of my church was always trying to get me to do that kind of stuff. So, um, how do we get on that topic? I don't even know. Oh, you said
I,
you're eloquent. Um,
yes, I was being smug and facetious,
yeah,
but
yeah.
as I do. But I remember, it's interesting you say that. I remember I was sitting down, and it was a Southern church. I moved around a lot, so it's not like,
Yep.
yeah, I grew up in that church or anything like that. But it was a Southern church. It was in Tillman's Corner, and they had spent a bunch of money and built a big old arena type, church. Never been in one like that.
Mhm.
And but in the old building before they had the new building, I remember that they had this kid who was same age as me, and that he's connected to the church, and they got up and he did a little sermon, right, in
Mhm.
front, trying to promote kids getting into being a preacher. And I remember sitting there and being irked that why didn't they ask me? And then I remembered, oh yeah, because I don't give a shit. Yeah. So
Yeah, they were always trying to guide me down that path,
yeah,
and
sure.
I
Though
just
it's a system.
eventually I had no. Oh yeah, I had no desire to stay in organized religion. I just think it's a pretty much all a scam.
It
There's people who
is,
need
but
it.
it has value though.
Yes, most of the people there absolutely need the structure of it, I
Yeah,
would
it's a
say. That's
networking
why they keep going.
system, and yeah,
But right, for the most part, I'd say that the top tier, if you will, the top echelon of the congregations, they know what they're there for, and they're there
hmm
for networking and
hmm
community and
hmm
these things, and obviously to do, some of them do charity work and stuff.
sure.
They're there for that infrastructure.
Well, yeah, no,
The
if
rest
I
of it is
whatever,
ceremonial.
yeah.
Yeah,
But I mean, if I was in the states, I would belong to a church. There's value to
yeah.
it. And shit, I'd probably be a mason as well because there's value to it.
There's
Um,
got to be something in Japan similar
oh
besides being a
yeah,
priest.
but we run into that little problem again. I don't give a shit. So, but no, I'm part of the Lions
Mm.
Club here. I'm part of the Rotary. I am part of
Yeah.
that. And do they have their little secret clubs? I'm sure, but I don't know if you've been paying attention your entire life, but the Asians are pretty racist.
No,
Yeah, they're
not
not.
the yellow men. They can't
Yeah,
be.
they're not
I've been told
necess-
only white men
they're
are
not
allowed.
necessarily mean about it, but
Yeah,
no,
they're very nice racists.
they are. But it's like,
Very kind.
if you're a Muslim, right? Everyone's allowed to be
Yep,
a Muslim. But if you're not
that's right.
Arab, if you're not an Arab, you're not a real life boy.
That's right.
And therefore you're never going to hold any kind of real authority when it comes to the greater arc of Islamists, right?
That's right.
It's the same thing here, and I imagine it's like that all over the place. If you're not Asian, you're not going to get in. There's a ceiling, without
It's
question.
odd because the the progenitor of both Christianity and Islam is obviously what we call Judaism today, but it's not really the same thing. Um, and they're very much the same way in their like upper echelons of the really orthodox situations
Yeah,
of Judaism, but Christianity isn't. Like actual like Christianity, I'd say is one of the only universalist actual religions, like or organized religions. Because I mean, they
it's
bring
true.
anybody in.
No, that's true.
Jesus himself was very much about bring anybody
It's true.
in.
No, the Christians, of course, they're because, well, once again, keep in mind, I told you where it came from. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John came out of Vespasian and Josephus, right? And the whole point was to turn as many Jews and all the Gentiles against them. There's a reason why it's an international religion, because it was made that way.
Yes, which is why I don't like religion, right there, because I don't think I personally do believe in Jesus. I think he was a real entity and a real scion of whatever the divine is, whatever God is.
Well, it seems like
Um,
Yeshua was a real dude. Yeah.
yeah. So, which is funny because his real name is just Joshua, but for some reason we call him Jesus. Um,
Yeah,
but
no, it
anyway,
is weird. Yeah. But
but
yeah,
the
no.
religion
Yeah.
around it is first of all, which version? Because even back, you go back 1,000 years, there was different versions all over the place, and then go back further, and who knows, right? It morphed and mutated into different things so many times. How can you
Yeah.
possibly know yours is the correct
Would
version?
Would you want to know why we don't call him Joshua? Would you like to know why?
Elucidate me.
Yeah. Um,
Elucidate.
because once again, going back to Vespasian,
Yep.
this didn't happen in 30 AD. This all took place in 70 AD, which has been proven now,
Yep.
by the way. But it's no big deal. 40 years, 2,000 years ago, that's not a big deal, right?
Yeah.
Um,
That's easy to lose.
that's easy
That's
to
easy to
lose.
get mixed
That's
up.
easy to lose. But the big thing was Vespasian ended up becoming emperor.
Yep.
But there were three other contenders, right? And one of the main contenders is why the Jewish revolt took place was to support him to become emperor was Esus of Petra, right? King Esus, because his mom is, literally from the lineage of Augustus, right?
Yep.
And so he made a big push. The Jews made their rebellion to support him, put their money behind him. Well, the Hebrews, right? And they had their thing. And of course, Vespasian won. He sent his son Titus out to murder them and shut them all down.
And he did.
Yeah, he did. Yes, he did. Um, uh, and Esus was the one who was crucified. But
Yep.
he didn't die on the cross. We know that he was taken down off the cross by what was the dude that took Jesus off the cross? What's his name?
Oh,
But he took his
starts with an
body to
L.
he took his body to the tomb in the Bible story, but that's not what happened. We actually
Yep.
have historical documents weird like that. But anyway, he was taken to the prison they had up in Ireland. And we don't know what
Interesting.
happened to him after that. There's some documentation that after he was released, he went into the east, into what we call India today, in that northwestern state, and he retired and died there, a rich man. And of course, you go to that place today, they actually have places you can go see where Isis lived and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, that's a long story. To cut it down, Isis in English pronunciation would be Jesus. That's why
Correct.
you call him Jesus,
Yeah. And
because of the
I
Petran
know that.
king.
Well, besides my knowledge of Latin, but I only know that because of um, the Last Crusade, Indiana Jones, because they taught me at a very young age. I was very young when I watched that movie.
Hmm.
At a very young age, that the Latin J is an I sound, or in our reverse that is I. So Isus would be spelled with what we would consider a J in our language, but in
Right.
their language it would be more like an I.
Right.
And that's exactly why that is that way. It's very interesting. I think I kind of already figured that out, but for some reason just never
But
put it together.
but there were many Joshuas running around during the
Yeah,
Civil War, of course, because anytime back in those days that the Hebrews would have an uprising, they would always start screaming about the Messiah because modern people don't understand what Messiah means. It means
liber
general.
general
Yeah,
liberator.
yeah,
Yeah.
liberator,
Um.
warlord, right?
Yes.
So, of course, during the rebellion, there were many people running around calling themselves the Messiah because they were rebels, they were activists,
You know what's
and
funny?
several of them were called Joshua because it was the most popular name at the time,
Yes, it's kind of like Muhammad.
or
Um.
John.
It's funny because the pagan Nords, before Christianity went in and did what it did to basically take over and stamp out most of the paganism. Um, they had this idea. A lot of them did, that Jesus was either an incarnation of Thor or very similar to Thor,
Yeah, they
and
did
he was a
that. Yeah,
warlord. Yeah, he was a
yeah,
war god to
yeah.
them.
Yeah, no, they
That's
did that a
interesting.
lot. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And you know what the most popular female time name at the time was? You will never guess. Grimlock. Grimlock. At that time, 2,000 years ago, the time of the Messiah. What was Joshua was the most popular boy's name, but what was the most popular female name? Would you like to guess? Would you like to guess? I'll give you one chance at it.
Hosanna.
Oh Jesus.
I had to
I'm
make the
gonna take
guess.
a
Yes.
wild stab in the dark and say it was Mary.
Oh, the right first time. Yeah. Mary, there
And
was
it still
Mary's.
is over there.
Throw a
Miriam.
rock. There's a Mary somewhere.
Yep.
But yeah. But anyway, and there's a lot of history and a lot of things that took place to bring us to where we are today. Of course, it's a long, long thing. Now, was one of those Joshuas running around the real deal? Sure, why not?
Well, it's funny because um, there's another name for the Messiah that gets forgotten a lot, even by Christians, which is Emmanuel. And there was only one said to be Emmanuel. You had both names, Yeshua and Emmanuel. And that was the one, allegedly anyway, that is supposed to be the Jesus of Christianity. And
Hmm.
that's how you delineate them.
You
So
know,
Emmanuel means God with us. Literally, that's what it means, the name. And that was the name prophesied back in the Old Testament that the Messiah would have. So the other name is just kind of a carry. It's basically what you said, really popular name for one. And two, there's a reason it was really popular because Joshua of the Old Testament was a legend. He was like, in that area, he was like Hercules, right? He was this legendary hero, general, warlord
you
who,
mean the
helped.
the
Huh?
prophesizer?
Yeah. The one in the Old Testament, the military leader that basically conquered, well, not even
Rough.
basically, did conquer Canaan.
No, I think I was
Um
talking about
What?
the one who was in
Why does the
Babylon. Hey, go ahead.
Why does the prophesizer sound like a Babylonian comic?
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah.
Well, it's
Uh,
interesting you say Babylon
yeah.
because
Jo-
there's a lot of
Joshua, put down the tablet. But Mom, it's the prophesizer.
You
it's a
have
lot
to.
of muddy stuff with the
Yeah.
Babylonians.
Well, you got to give him credit though a little bit because when those guys threw that Bible together, 'cause you got to remember the Torah was only written a short time before the time
Yep.
of Jesus, right? It
It was
wasn't.
Mhm.
verbal.
Those stories have been around forever from many cultures, much older than the Hebrews, right?
Verbal
But
traditions.
sure, sure, sure. But they put those together while they were uh, during the Babylonian incarceration period, right? So it
Right.
wasn't very, very long before Jesus. And in those stories, we get a lot of prophecy about the future. And then it's amazing that within a very short period of rebellion after that, they came true. No,
Nailed it.
nailed
Uh,
it.
yeah, yeah. The one that I don't know if we know for, well, you might know. I don't know the actual chronology of is the Book of Genesis. Now I know it was compiled before then, but it's very old.
It's called the
Um,
Enuma Elish.
yes, and the Book of Genesis is the first prophecy of the Messiah of Jesus. But he's not named. It's just mentioned that the devil will strike his heel and he will strike his neck, meaning he'll do a kill shot to the dark one. Um, Hence why the savior, the whole thing. Still, by the way, still very warrior, very you know militant prophecy about the Jesus that Christians think is a pacifist. But I'll leave that alone. Uh, it's just interesting. It's one of the ones that we don't. I when I was raised, I don't know if this is actually true, but what I was taught when I was growing up is that the Book of Job is the oldest actual book, like actually written down book story, and that the other ones were done later, even though they're
Oh, well,
supposed to be from before. They were written down later.
most of the what you would read today was written around the 6th century, the Septuagint and
Yep.
stuff like that. Yeah.
Yep.
No, the one of the oldest books we know of is the Enuma Elish, of course, and that's where you get all your Genesis and origin stories from. It's quite a bit different. It's more detailed, but then again, it seems the further you go back in time, the more detail you get from these stories. Because a lot of
Mm,
people were taking the old stories, like the Hebrews, and adapting them to their situation, right? Which is pretty normal. But the Enuma Elish is, yeah, you should go read it. It's pretty interesting.
it's interesting stuff.
Mm.
Interesting stuff. I do find it hilarious that in the last 2,000 years, most of the world powers, aside from the Far East, obviously, have been at war with each other, religious wars, because a
Hmm.
lot of them have been,
Oh yeah,
over what is effectively just heresies repeatedly. Like, so they're basically the Muslims or the Christians are a heresy to the Jews of Judaism or of
right,
the Hebrewism, whatever,
right.
and Islam is the same to the Christians.
Oh
And
yeah,
then Islam says both are heresy. They're
of
both
course,
wrong.
of
They're both
course.
misinterpretations.
Right.
It's such a stupid, petty, feminine thing to fight about, to actually fight over. It's feminine. That's the worst part about it, and that's how I know it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
These organized religions are nonsensical. This is not how men should behave. If you have a disagreement, you should sort that out and work together. Especially considering, aside from certain aspects of Judaism and certain aspects of Christianity and Islam, they agree on basically fucking everything.
Oh, because they're the
Like,
same religion. Yeah,
bas-
that's true.
yes.
Yeah,
So what are we arguing about, guys? We're arguing over minutia. That
right.
doesn't matter.
Well,
It's silly.
the funniest thing about it, remember, because you came in and you were talking about treating each other fairly, and you came in when I was talking about the laws of Ashurbanipal, right?
Hmm.
And of course, that at that period, that was quite a balanced law system. We still reference it today, right?
Yep.
But the interesting thing I find about Islam particularly is they go on and on and on about the great Abraham. They all do,
Hmm.
right? The amazing
Yep.
Abraham. But like I said earlier, if you're not Arab, if you're not an Arab, you ain't going to be at any kind of hierarchy in Islam. You're not. It is racially, there's a racial glass ceiling there, without
Kafirs.
question. But here's the interesting thing: Abraham is the dude, he is the man. And
Hmm.
where and what was Abraham? Do you know?
Babylonian.
No, no.
Wasn't he? He was from Ur, wasn't he? Well, allegedly he was from
Yeah,
Ur.
but this is long before Babylon, dude.
Well, okay, he was from that region then.
He was
What became Babylon.
Sumerian.
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
know what his job was?
Uh-oh. Was he an accountant?
He was an assistant priest to the head priest, who was his daddy. So,
His papa.
Papa. So, Abraham was literally a Sumerian priest in Ur.
Interesting.
Literally. So if he's your daddy, if he's the inception of your whole religion as it is, then
Yep.
how in the hell would it matter if you were Arab? Because
Mm.
just a little thing here, what we would call Iraq today, not really Arabs,
That's true.
you
That's
know. Especially at that time, they're not very Arab-like,
No.
but
Well, because right after that would have been what a little while a little while, quote unquote, in history after the old Aryans moved through. So they would have been very different to what we have today.
sure, the leadership
Because
would have
yeah,
certainly been, we can still see representation of the old Aryans today.
yep,
We call them the Tartarians. They still exist.
that's right.
Do you know? And this is the weirdest thing. You realize not only is it the most populous language in Russia, but they're also the largest quote unquote minority of Russia. They're still there. I don't know what I keep mentioning this because it bugs me. Because in the West, they seem to have scrubbed all of Tartaria from history, even though it's still alive and well.
It sounds almost like a blood feud, Justin.
Something, something going on
Huh.
because they're still there, and you can go see those guys in their culture, and they have beautiful culture. They're shocking white people because that's what they are. They certainly have some that have mixed in with the Asians, of course. But yeah, if you want to go see where all this trouble started, go to the Tartarian regions of Russia and go see they're quite colorful.
Yep.
Anyway,
It's very interesting how much impact. Because I was just talking with the guys last night about this. I went and saw that Sound of Freedom movie,
oh yeah, how was that?
which it's very good.
Oh, excellent.
Caviezel should have won multiple Oscars in his career, but because he hasn't sold his soul like the rest of them,
Mm,
that'll never happen.
mm.
But he's just a phenomenal actor. He genuinely is phenomenal actor.
It's good subject
And he
matter too. A lot of
is.
people that would
Oh,
be engaged with it.
whew.
The thing is
But
funny for me, just before you continue with that though, that's
go ahead.
curious. When Disney bought 20th Century Fox and the deal went through, we
That's right.
talked about it here some years back, right? One of the first things they did was take that movie that was completed in the box, done,
Yep.
100% done,
In the can,
and
ready
in
to
the
go.
can, and put it on a shelf.
Said, we don't need that one.
Why, I wonder?
Hmm.
Hmm.
Curious, isn't it? It's
Hmm.
funny how these Disney executives every year or so get busted with child porn. That's
Yeah, it's
interesting.
weird.
How that
It
keeps
is weird,
happening.
Grimlock. It's very weird. Anyway,
Curious.
yeah, curious. Go ahead and continue. Tell us
But
about the
I
movie.
was talking about the heroic figure,
Yeah.
and in basically every major culture, the figure is effectively the same. The skin color might be a little different. There might be some, differences from like the eye shape or whatever, but by and large, they have the same triangle, the same jawline, all of it. They're
Mm,
built, they have a very masculine build and things like this. In every culture, all of them have the same basic conceptualization of what a hero is, at least in an image. Where does that come from? Well, that comes largely from the Aryan stories, but also from the fact that that's probably what they look like. And when you look out
yeah.
in history and you look out in even today, the people who often are doing the very, very brave things look like that. And the reason why I got on that story is because the guy that movie's about is a real man, and he is, I mean, Hitler would love him. He looks exactly like Aryan propaganda.
Oh yeah.
Exactly. And that's why. There's a reason why that stuff exists. There's a reason why it's in our psyche and our subconscious all over the world in every human culture that matters. This same identity exists as a hero. We see that as heroic, and it's why even movie stars in India have the chiseled jaw and the hunter eyes and all this. Even ones in China have very similar features. Uh, there's a reason that in our brain, in our little lizard brain, that looks like heroic. That looks
Mhm.
like somebody I can trust and somebody who will fight the good fight or whatever you want to call it. Uh, and that is amazing to me that most people don't even put that together. If you look at most Hollywood actors right now, the big action ones, They look the same. They have very similar features. There'll be some differences here or there, but by and large, especially in the nose, but by and large, their eyes are almost perfectly, they call it the triangle. Their eyes are almost perfectly symmetrical to their mouth in a way that is like a triangle.
Mhm.
And they have what they call hunter's eyes. All the Chris's, remember the big deal about the Chris's in Marvel? All of
All
them
right.
have it. Every single one. They have these
Sure.
hunter's eyes. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason why they're seen as heroes and why they're a draw. And it's not just because they're in, certain films or whatever. It's because they have the look. And that look is real. And this idea that it's not real is silly. Of course it
Yeah.
is.
I
Just look around. Look
I'm
at
sh-
firemen and stuff.
I'm
They
showing
look
a
like that.
they do. I'm showing a Tartarian picture. Look at the one in the back.
See 'em.
She likes me. I can tell.
Uh-oh. Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I will say
Not
they're
at all.
presenting food, so I approve of them immediately.
Hell yeah.
Immediately.
But isn't it weird though? You get all the conspiracy thing about Tartaria and stuff like that going on. It's become quite popular. But there is literally a Tartaria and Tartarians, and there are millions of them, and they look like this.
Yep.
What season
They
they're
are.
having over there, but what they're wearing looks comfy as shit as well.
It's cold. Look at the snow in the back and dilapidated buildings and stuff. But they're pretty girls. But the one in the back though, mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, look though. Look at her jawline even. Right? It's the same thing I'm talking about. Like that there's a reason for this. And that reason is largely due to the fact that our subconscious is a lot better at filtering reality than we like to give it credit for. So all it does is make patterns. Boop, 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 boop. It just makes patterns. It's all day long. It's just playing that game that we all played as kids where you draw the lines. That's all it's doing. It's just drawing the lines, making the patterns. So it notices these things, and our frontal cortex tries to rationalize it away or ignore it or whatever, but it never goes away. So when we make art and we make these things, these idols as we call them,
Mhm.
they look like they have a certain look to them,
Mhm.
and that there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
And it's largely due to, I would say, some form of genetic memory, but it's also due to the Aryan migrations. They spread these stories and they did unbelievable things for some people, and I think it just stuck in our primitive little lizard brains that this is what a hero looks like. And by and large, it does play out that way. It's very
Yeah.
weird. It's cool though. It's so cool that when you look at a person, the reason first impressions matter and are usually correct, by the way, that's the part people leave out, is because we wear our character on our face. All of us do.
Sure.
Some of us wear a tired, broken character. Some of us wear a happy character.
Mine
But the people who
mine
are
says,
what I
"Give me
call
a
the
hot pocket, damn it."
yes, the people that I call the bastards are the ones who will get in there and fight when they need to.
Mhm.
They wear that on their face too, and they have a look that's just something about it. It's ferocity when it
Grimlock.
needs to be.
Grimlock. Which one? Which one?
Yeah.
Grimlock. Which one?
Hmm.
Look at them eyes on that one. Dang.
She's stunning, yeah. Well, you can see the touch of the Asian,
Yeah,
right?
Oh yeah.
See that one. I'm not a fan of red, but the one in red got those eyes.
Mm-hmm.
They just catch your attention.
Although the one in the middle looks fun though. Yeah. I got
She'd take good care of you.
more food for you. Here you go.
She's got
More
her fuzzy cone head hat on.
She does, as they do.
What in the hell? What is that? What's this food?
Those rice balls?
They like their food.
See, you see this gentleman here? He looks like he could be my son. It's creeping me out a bit. Yeah, look at the ginger. A ginger tartar. That's
Oh, yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, there are plenty of them. Look at them here. It is called Rusland, the land of the red.
That's correct. That's correct. It's
Yeah.
also called the place where people dress horribly because those outfits. What are we doing?
I mean, dude, I could get used to it.
Well, for those kind of women, I think that kind of food, I can get used to a lot.
Oh, there's
kind of funny
so
because
many.
it looks very Middle Eastern and it's not.
Well, they are the inception of it, though, is the point that
That's where it
I
comes
am
from.
making.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
where the Aryan migrations across the Great Steppes, back and forth, back and forth, they're the ones that brought all this shit. Now, how did it work out? Why did that happen? It is what it is, but it's just the reality of it, right? And you can go look at Tartar women, Tartar culture, dude. They're really pretty people, dude. They're
Yep.
big, strong, and they look Middle Eastern because hold on a second. Uh-oh.
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 Uh-oh. He's found something.
Oh no. There's a
He's found
problem.
something.
No, I got it here. Just give me a second. We're enjoying, this is cultural exchange.
Uh-oh.
Mm.
Yeah, get rid of the kids. Yeah, cute. Okay, you're cute, but mm-hmm. Mm.
Oh my.
Damn.
Chester died and went to heaven.
We gotta get ourselves to Tartaria.
Ah,
Dude, the
yeah,
Tartars got some pretty girls, man.
not bad. Not bad at all.
Yeah, I could go all day. There's just so many they're just beautiful people. Even the dudes are good looking.
Yep. The
They
Aryan
got it.
blood. Listen,
Mhm.
Hitler was only wrong about what it was. He wasn't wrong that it existed.
No, he wasn't. That is true. And of course, the funny thing about this is a lot of their culture you already know. Like the Russian
Yep.
dance, the Cossack dance they call it. It's not Cossack, it's Tartarian, right?
Yeah, and it became the Cossacks because they were out where the Tartarians were,
Yeah,
out in
well,
the
of
steppes.
course. And of course the Cossacks have a little bit more age. Oh my God, dude, look at this. Dude, that is a babe, man. And these are more, restrictive cultures. They're not gonna you're not gonna go find any kind of lewd stuff from these girls. Look at that one, dude.
It
Mm-hmm.
ain't bad.
Ain't bad. There's just so many. Just go search it. There's so many gorgeous women, dude. They've kept a secret.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway,
The fountain of beauty, apparently.
Fountain of Beauty, and I mean, just go look at. My God, they're gorgeous people. But anyway, um, uh, but it just irks me. You know how I get irked.
Irksome. It's
Um,
irksome.
it is irksome. All these kind of silly things that go on in our modern world. But nevertheless, we do have stuff to talk about. I suppose I should probably get to it.
Probably should. Yeah, we can look at beautiful women all night, or we can talk about nonsense.
I choose the beautiful women then. Damn, she is a smoke show, dude.
She ain't bad. Not bad at
Well,
all.
this right here, these are just normal girls at some kind of community hall event. I mean, you look at it; it's what exactly it is. It's just a community hall event, and they're getting together for a friend picture. Hottie, 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 hottie. Damn, dude.
Yeah, not bad.
Which one, Grimlock? Which one? Which one?
Mm, I'm going with the one in black. Is it black or dark blue?
Navy blue.
I think it's
Yeah,
dark blue. Yeah.
she's pretty. She's
Okay, then
pretty.
she gets points. She gets even extra points because I like dark blue.
Well, the
Yeah.
one with the not the fuzzy body, but the fuzzy tits, that's a hottie. Yeah.
Mm.
That girl,
You like?
she's good looking, dude. The one in blue, light blue, and the turquoise, she's pretty. They're all
Yeah.
pretty. The one on the far right has definitely got a lot more of the Slav in her.
Mm-hmm.
You can see the Slav. She
Mm.
probably is a Slav, where these are not Slavs, right?
Right.
So, anyway, I'll save that. Well. Oh my God. Oh my God. She's looking right at me.
Those three are something else.
Jesus, dude. Anyway, let's go ahead and get off of that and get into actually the stuff I'm supposed to be talking about. Goodness gracious. Yeah, let's do that one. Alrighty.
We got it.
So I want to start off today, if I may.
Uh-oh.
Although I probably need to make an announcement real quick. What am I doing here? This is what I'm doing, right? Okay, let's do this one. All right. So I want to talk about this first, but I should there is a quick. We have an obituary. Another one. We've lost someone. We try to cover these things and talk about them. But so let me do the obituary first. Yeah, Indiana Jones and Dial of Destiny is dead. Yeah, it's sad. You know, Indy's been with us a long time. He's beloved, but that's dead. That's 2 weekends.
That's abysmal.
They're going to lose like $300-400 million on this minimum.
Good.
Yeah, no, I
Enjoy.
understand that, especially because it's so mean-spirited. And we did get information that the original cut, because they went back and did reshoots, the original cut, she does walk away and puts the hat on, by the way. Just so you know, of course.
No, nobody's surprised by that.
No, nobody's surprised by that. Yeah. Yeah, well, that's what you get when you take a hero and you make him a bumbling fool. Once again, he's a bad father, right? This is kind of a trend with Disney, right? He's a bad father. He's broken up. He's not taking care of his family. He's a lush and a loser dad. And it's weird that Harrison Ford, because we know he doesn't give a shit, but he allowed them to do that to him not once but twice. Han Solo, bad dad, right? Indiana Jones, bad dad. It's their thing, bad dad, right?
I don't believe Disney. You'll never convince me that Han would have been a bad father. Never.
No.
He was a good father. You could tell he had it in him.
Mm-hmm.
You could tell the character.
Well, look what he did with Luke.
God.
That was a fatherly, big brother.
Don't even get me started.
But I mean, yeah, this is ridiculous. Especially Indiana Jones is even worse because, what is Dr. Jones? What is he?
What is he?
Yes.
An archaeologist.
But he's a professor.
Yes.
At a university, he's a professor. I mean, come on, dude. Get a grip, you assholes. But yeah, it's dead. Can you believe that you're seeing an absolute collapse? Now, keep in mind, the Crystal Skull was the worst of them. And even the Temple of Doom, that was worse. But it made more money than all the rest of them, right? It was the biggest moneymaker for them, Crystal Skull. Look at how much money this is losing.
People wanted that one.
They did.
They wanted another Indiana Jones. They wanted it to be good, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
Part of that one specifically, you could say partially was the audience's fault, or the people, because we demanded it, really wanted it, we wanted more Indiana Jones. But this one, I don't think there was a demand. I think everybody was like, nah, he's like 80 years old.
Yeah, we're
good.
We're good.
If anything, what they should have, if they were going to make more Indiana Jones, they should have done some form of like almost a soft reboot or just a whole reboot. My throat decided to close, and get somebody new in there to play it. Maybe even Pratt. They got him on contract. Why not?
Right. Yeah, why not?
And just do it. Like, he would make a fantastic Indiana. He basically is Indiana Jones in some of his movies, so he'd be fine. I think he'd do fine. He looks enough similarly to Harrison Ford. So I think you'd be perfectly fine with that. Like that.
Sure, or go find some other young actor, right?
Don't find the guy who played Han Solo in the Solo movie. Don't keep him.
Or maybe go find the guy who everyone wanted to be Solo because he looks just like a young Harrison Ford. Even Harrison was trying to promote him, right? That kid, go get that kid. But anyway, it's dead. I don't want to waste much time on it, but obituary, sad.
One other thing,
dead. 2 weekends.
You know who would
dead.
make a good modern Indiana Jones? And he's I think he's in his early 40s now.
Mickey Rourke?
No.
Okay.
Clint Eastwood's son.
Oh yeah.
Whose name I just lost. But he has I think he could pull that off. I think he's got
Eastwood.
He's got eyes like his dad. And one of the biggest draws about Clint was those eyes, that squint.
Oh yeah.
Intensity.
Oh, ladies drank that up, man.
Oh yeah. Good old Clint. And his name's Clint, which is just
hottie.
you gotta be a special kind of badass to pull off Clint. I'm just saying.
Yeah. He's a hottie. Anyway, let's go back to my initial thing here. And I want to talk about perception. All right. Do you know who this is?
Who is that?
Yeah. Grimlock, who is this?
It looks like Meatloaf.
It is
That's
Meatloaf.
What I was thinking.
Good job. Now, back in the 80s, when I was a youngster, and going to proms and dances and stuff like that. You couldn't go to a dance or a prom or any kind of thing like a nightclub, which I used to do all the time. You could not go to any of them and not hear his big hit, right?
Yeah.
The Love by the Dashboard, Paradise by Dashboard Lights. This was his big hit. Now, and it's super catchy. Meatloaf's badass. He can sing like crazy, but look at him. Look at him. An absolute wreck of a human, even when he was young. This is young Meatloaf. Young Meatloaf. When he hit in the 80s, not old, decrepit Meatloaf, young, decrepit Meatloaf. All right? Now, perception. Now, let's take a look at it. First of all, no one knew what he looked like. That helped. It did help a lot. And the song was super catchy, but perception here. Perception. Let's go take a look at the lyrics of his mega hit, right? Let's take a look at it. You guys ready? You ready? We're going to look at the lyrics here. So Paradise by the Dashboard Light, right? And it starts off, well, I remember every little thing as if it happened only yesterday. Parking by the lake, and there was not another car in sight. Nice. And, excuse me. And I never had a girl looking any better than you did. And all the kids at school, they were wishing they were me that night. Oh, okay, sounds good. And now our bodies are, oh, so close and tight. It never felt so good. It never felt so right. And we're glowing like the metal on the edge of a knife, glowing like the metal on the edge of the knife. Come on, hold tight. Well, come on, hold tight. Though it's cold and lonely in the deep, dark night, I can see paradise by Dashboard Lights. I'm assuming he's talking about her titties. I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure.
Perhaps.
Anyway, so they go into the chorus and stuff, and basically, this is starting out as a story of a boy and girl going to have their first little sexual encounter by lakeside in a car. Okay, so pretty straightforward for rock and roll, right? But they're getting ready. They're getting all steamed up and hot bothered, kissing on each other. And if you look at the music video of what Meatloaf does, the girl that's singing with him, who is really good, but imagine Pat Benatar doing it though. Anyway, they do get on stage and kiss on each other all over the place. I don't know if they're dating or just because he's basically Broadway brought to pop music is what he is, right?
Yeah.
But okay, here we go. We got a real pressure cooking going on here, and he's talking about this is the kind of dialogue thing in the song where they're talking and they're using baseball analogies. I never understood why baseball was attached to sex. Someone explain that to me. Anyway, they're getting close, getting close, getting close, getting close, and all of a sudden she says, "Stop right there! I got to know right now before we go any further. Do you love me? Will you love me forever? Do you need me? Will you never leave me? Will you make me so happy for the rest of my life? Will you take me away? Will you make me your wife?" And he says, "Let me sleep on that. Baby, baby, let me sleep on that. Let me sleep on it. I'll give you my answer in the morning." He just wants to get laid, right? He just wants to get laid, but she wants commitment. All right, pretty standard human story going on here. Well, anyway, this goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then finally, he gives in, right? And he says, "I couldn't take it any longer. Lord, I was crazed. And when the feeling came upon me like a tidal wave, I started swearing to my God and on my mother's grave that I would love you to the end of time. I swore I'd love you to the end of time." Aw. And he got laid. And then the very next verse, the very next thing out of his mouth is, "So now I'm praying for the end of time to hurry up and arrive, because if I got to spend another minute with you, I don't think that I can really survive. I'll never break my promise or forget my vow, but God only knows what I can do right now. I'm praying for the end of time. It's all that I can do. Praying for the end of time so I can end my time with you." Wow, that took a turn. That took a turn, right? Now, the reason why I'm going through this particular song, because he had a lot of good hits, this guy's a great singer, is this thing hit like frickin' thunder, dude. This was a mega hit. Now you can't call Meatloaf a one-hit wonder because he wasn't, but this right here was his big one, and it hit like thunder. I remember when it came out; it was all over the radios. Like I said, you couldn't go any place where people were dancing and not have this song come on. Everyone go crazy and get up and dancing. It was such a major, major hit, and I don't think any of us, including myself, bothered to listen to the lyrics at all because this is not a positive song. This is quite the opposite of a positive song. And look who's singing it to you. This absolute bag of shit.
Uh-huh.
But yet Meatloaf had a major hit and he went on to become a legend, right? But
Yeah,
I'm just saying
bullshit.
perception, right? The perception of a thing. And we get kind of caught up in that a lot, I think, right?
Yeah.
Of what a thing looks like or what we imagine it to be, that it's not really that. So with that in mind, and this wonderful image of this just spilling over of humanity, my God, how ugly this guy is. I cannot. I cannot. Thundero. I mean, Jesus, look at him.
Mm.
Yeah, you know. But he's so bad. But keeping that in mind, let's continue. Well, I'll come back to that. Let's go over here and look at these right here. Go ahead, Thundero.
think,
Did I?
I think he left for a moment.
No, he's right
I'll
there.
get it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oppenheimer actor Robert Downey Jr. declares men start wars and the entire planet should be a matriarchy.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Now, first of all, Robert's showing his age and perfect for the role. Some people are actually excited about this movie. We don't know how well it will do, but I'm sure it's going to be well acted. I hope it is. It might be overacted though, if you look at the trailer. But
Yeah.
he's kind of settling into his old man look pretty well, I think.
Mhm.
But here's the problem, right? Perception, right? I understand why people might say that, but if you actually went and studied the history, because it's shocking, Grimlock. We have data.
Yeah.
We do. We have, especially amongst the whites, we have many female leaders throughout history. Many, right? Catherine the Great, Elizabeth the First, Victoria, the current Queen Elizabeth, who we just lost. But there's been some in China. But you just go look at the female leaders throughout history. We actually have lots of them, and there is data. And the data tells us, Grimlock, would you like to guess what it tells us about matriarchy versus patriarchy?
Don't work.
Well, no, it can work, but I mean, in regards to Robert Downey Jr.'s statement, men start wars and the entire planet should be a matriarchy. So when we have women in charge, do we have less war?
No.
No, we actually have more. The data overwhelmingly shows that when women are in charge, they go to war much quicker than men. And would you like to guess why that might be? Would you like to speculate why that might be?
Angry, emotional beings.
I'd say that's part of it, but maybe also that they don't have to fight it.
That too.
Yeah, because with a man in charge, I mean, if you're a general, you understand there is sacrifice involved in doing your job successfully, and sometimes that sacrifice will lead to saving a lot more lives. A good general thinks that way, right? But the simple fact of the matter is, a man going to war knows right well he's going to be in the thick of it, right? Whether it be
Yeah.
politically or physically, right? And women have no such concerns, right? Until this modern time. So I'm saying, shit, let's have a draft. Let's throw those women in front of whatever war the Democrats want to fight next, and see how that works out. But I'm just
I like
saying
the
that,
style.
yeah, well, it's so ridiculous. But I'm just saying the data is super clear, guys. You have far more war, much quicker to war with women in charge than you do men. So it's a perception thing because I can understand why Robert thinks this because his whole life he's been told this,
Yep.
right? But it's not actually the truth. just like Meatloaf is not a sexy hot pot that created this great little sex love song. And in fact, he created a deep desire for divorce song from a guy that's literally 10 tons of shit in a 1 gallon bag, right?
I like that. That's a good one. I like that. That's a good one. That's a good
But
one.
you know, this perception. Now, am I angry with
Yeah.
Robert? Nah, not really. This guy isn't particularly noisy, really. He's very supportive of other actors. He's a professional. I don't have much problem with Robert, particularly because he got his shit straight. He was in a bad place. He'd really screwed himself up, but he turned himself around and he's doing better. So I got no anger against Robert, you know. But
I don't either. I've heard a lot of people say similar things, and it's
sure,
obviously nonsensical.
but it,
There's
but
no
it,
there's no data to back it.
no, but the initial idea when you hear it is like, yeah, okay. You don't really question it, I think. It's
Well,
just a
I do because
reality.
I was raised with women, and I'm like, no, you have no idea how much they look for fights. They look to
Oh,
start a
they
fight,
do,
and there's
especially Grimlock's
absolutely
people.
no reason. Oh yeah, there's
Yeah,
absolutely no reason why, if you give them more power, they wouldn't look to start more fights.
you know,
There's
Tom,
none.
no, that's true. And Tommy Sotomayor said the most pressing thing I've ever had: where there are 3 black girls, I will not be. Hmm?
Well, you definitely won't be. You're in Japan, so
It's true.
finding one is probably like looking at a unicorn.
Yeah, no, you don't see them very much. Every now and then I see them. They're usually actual Africans, not
Yeah.
Americans. But
Well,
Well,
that's become the delineation, right? As black and African, even though technically, it's all the same thing, or roughly the same thing.
American blacks are mainly European. They're not actually
Yeah.
African. Yeah. It's just that genetic the African genetics are so dominant, right? And it takes a very 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 long time to breed that out. A very long time, dude. And it's fine. And I think that's good why we use the word black for them and African for the others. I think it's
Yeah.
actually it's good terminology. But anyway, so we got Robert here, and once again, it's just a misperception. It's not an accurate statement, right? And then of course we have Mackie Boy.
Old Mackie boy. What do we got? Let's see him. Captain America, Brave New World star Anthony Mackie calls out lack of black characters in Harry Potter and the Lord of the Rings films. I
fuck
want
up.
to see Frodo in the hood.
Okay.
Why?
Well, it's a perception thing,
I'm sorry,
right?
I couldn't help that. No, nigga, shut the fuck up.
Mhm.
Them books are fucking written, and oh, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
And they aren't written for you.
I
No.
want to see Fredo in the hood. No, I don't want to see Fredo in the hood because Fredo would have been robbed and killed. So no.
That's true. That's
Frodo
true.
would be
Poor Frodo. But and I got nothing particular against Anthony Mackie. He's boring. He's not a
He's
leading
an
man.
idiot.
Maybe he is, but I'm talking about his acting capability. He's just not a leading man, and they keep pushing him on us. There are some really good black actors that have come out the past 20 years, for sure. He's just not one of them, but they keep throwing him at us for some reason. I gave him a chance too. I did. I watched.
They keep throwing him at him because he says stupid shit like this.
That's
That's
why.
why they
That's
keep throwing
probably
him.
why.
But
But
if you go back about 10 years, he was doing interviews on television saying the exact opposite kind
I'm
of
sure.
stuff.
I'm sure he was.
Talking about how what did he say? One of the ladies said, what if we're in a relationship and you want a sandwich? Should I go get it? And he said, "Yep. You better get in there and make me a sandwich." And then he started going off about if we're in the club and somebody wants a fight, you're going to expect me to defend you, aren't you? Yeah. Well, then you better get in there and make Daddy a sandwich.
Make
That was
Daddy
what he
a
said.
sandwich. Damn
Yep.
right. Yeah. The problem with that is I make a better sandwich.
Me too.
Yeah.
But sometimes I don't want to get up.
Yeah. No.
Sometimes the lion just wants to lay under the tree. Chester.
Yeah. The problem is my wife is her hobby is being a mom and a wife. It's literally her hobby. I often want to get up and just do it myself. I'm motivated because she's always doing those things. But then as soon as I move, she's like, "Pfft." It's like way faster than me, dude. The celerity on that woman. I mean, Jesus. But anyway, of course, I did give him a shot. I went and watched some of his solo stuff. I did, and he's just boring, dude. But anyway, aside from that, now Harry Potter does have black kids in it because
That's
it
correct.
represents modern Britain. It's
That's
got
correct.
Asians in it. It actually does have representation in it. It just so happens the story is about Harry and his group of friends, which are
Yes.
Ron and Hermione, and they're just, white people. That's just their
They're
friends.
British.
They're
The
British,
bastards.
as in the
How dare
majority
they?
of them are. How dare they? We got the French girls, which was kind of nice.
Yep.
We got the Russian boys, which is, I'd rather
You
have the
notice
Tartarian girls, to be honest with you.
you notice no one's complaining about the stereotype of the hot French girls and the
Hmm.
brutish
Right,
Russian men, though.
right,
Nobody's
right,
complaining about that stuff. It's all
right.
about we need to see more blacks in it. Why?
Well, so
They could
he's
be a stereotype too? I don't what's the
I don't
point
know.
here?
Well, so it tells me he's not actually watched Harry Potter
Or read it or
or
done any
anything. He doesn't know
research
what he's
at all.
doing.
You
And
expect niggas to read in this day and age?
fair enough. But however, the Lord of the Rings is literally an Anglo-Saxon epic.
That's right.
Am I missing something?
No, he's
Wh-
racist.
No, why is it so hard to say? Because we used to say it all the time. Why is it so hard to say we want original characters when other than a bunch of mediocre to no talent people just saying this shit so they can keep getting jobs?
Like you.
Where what happened to we want our own shit? We didn't. It this shit is so lazy and fucking pathetic that only people with low self-esteem would celebrate this.
Yeah, no, it's stupid. And I'm kind of wondering, Mr. Mackey, if you seem to have a lack of blacks, which there clearly aren't. Go watch any
And never
American
have been.
commercial. Go watch any American commercial and tell me there's a lack of blacks. But
No.
beyond that, sir, you know what I suggest? This is my suggestion to Mr. Mackey. Go create a treatment for the Shaka Zulu. Show how the Zulus murdered their way down the east coast of Africa, killing every goddamn thing they came across until they ran into
Yeah.
the Dutch, who put up a bit of a fight, and they're like, nope, I'm out. And they tapped out to the British, who came in and obliterated your ass. How about
Yeah.
that? I want that.
As
And
the Brits did.
Mackey can be the Shaka. He can be Shaka.
As the Brits often did to basically anybody in that period that got in their way.
Yeah, unless they fight themselves and then they got their ass kicked.
Yes.
We call ourselves Americans now.
But no, it's infuriating. And it's infuriating because he's just saying it because he knows that's what Disney wants him to say. But the rest of the true believers out here, you are actually mentally limited. You are a limited person with a limited brain capacity and intellect. It's so limited that you think that somehow you're winning by getting hand-me-downs. That's how limited you have. Literal poor man thinking.
Literal.
You get used stuff,
you get
stuff,
used
and I'm
shit.
winning.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at
ridiculous.
me. You're out here. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
It is.
When you could get new shit that could be cool, like that Creator movie that's coming out with a black lead. I'm like, all right, let's check that out. That could be sick.
Yeah,
Probably
because
isn't gonna be, but it might be.
Because there's no perception, and that's my point.
Yes.
Lord of the Rings doesn't make sense. It's just a stupid statement, because it's what the Amazon wants to be said. But the whole thing, his perception though, because does he believe it or not? I don't know. But a lot of young people today do. The fact that he's saying that Harry Potter has a lack of black characters when it actually has several black characters in the story. Now, to be fair, not all the minority characters actually made it into the movie. So go blame Christopher Columbus, I guess. But because the book has more. I read those
Don't
books
worry,
with my kids.
The new show is going to fix that for sure. I promise you that. They'll definitely black that thing up.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, if they stick to the book, it will have more minorities because the book did.
Yes.
Right?
Because believe it or not, Chester, J.K. Rowling is in fact not a racist bigot.
No, she's
I know.
a feminist.
It's crazy. It's
She's
crazy.
worse.
I know.
But
So she's an
anyway,
actual feminist.
yeah, she is. So, it's this perception thing I'm talking about. It's how you see the world, or how people are taught to see the world. And I saw this thing come out from this teacher the other day, and she just was exasperated because she just kind of done with it. But she gave an example,
Yeah.
her, I guess, where she kind of gave up her last example, where she was trying to talk about the Holocaust, which fun topic. But
Yeah. Light reading.
light
Yeah.
reading. But she talking to a class, and she asked one of the students, does anyone know where the Holocaust was? And picked one of the kids, and it was a girl, and she said, "I don't know. It was like World War One or something like that. Like I don't know, the 18th century."
Yeah.
And the teacher was like, "Well, no, that's not correct." And the thing that upset the teacher most was the fact that a kid that age had no clue, which is ridiculous, just ridiculous. But
Yeah.
more importantly, the kid didn't ask a follow-up question. The kid
Didn't
didn't
care. No
care,
curiosity.
what the correct answer was at all.
Correct.
Just like, oh, okay.
Yeah. No. We're heading over a cliff, is what you're saying to me. That's all you're saying. There's no curiosity in the next generation, and I've seen it in a lot of these kids. Now, obviously, not all of them, but there is a lot of them, a whole huge majority that have no desire to think. Not even just not think. They don't even know what thinking is. They think thinking is feeling. They genuinely believe it's the same thing. They don't even understand what thinking, like rational, critical, logical thought is. It's something that it's not even that they're mistaken and that they're coming to the wrong conclusions, or that they're being illogical in their formulations of their thoughts. They don't even want to think at all. None. They're not just wrong. Wrong's the wrong word. They're oblivious to the concept of a thought.
Yeah,
It's
no, it's
gone.
really
Yes.
weird. Yeah, it's really bizarre. It's so
Yeah.
bizarre. And
I got a solution for that.
Oh.
Put the motherfuckers on farms. You're not
Mhm.
capable of thinking. Here. Go pick some peas for a fucking 8
Oh,
for 8
no.
The
hours.
irony
You'll
is,
learn. It's true.
We'll call you if we need you. Go pick.
the
some
irony
peas.
of that is that would actually teach them to think.
Yeah.
You
No.
have to. You can, the mindless work, as we call it, right? That a lot of people think it is. One, farming isn't, and two, that physical work. There's a litany of evidence and studies all the way back thousands of years that physical work is the best way to spark your mind. That's what gets it going. Is moving, motion.
Right.
So that would actually probably wake them up. The reason why they're like this is because they have devices in their hands, or parents that don't care. So they sit around lethargic all the time and do nothing other than just consume mindless nonsense. So of course they don't know how to think. Their brains aren't working.
Yeah.
You're not making them work.
No, it is weird. And we see those videos I've talked about before where they're going and asking simple questions like, when was America created? And they have no clue. I mean, most of them were sometime in the 1960s, which was shockingly bad. But it's so weird because in my brain, it's like, what answer does he want? 1776, 1783, or
Exactly.
1787?
Yeah, or
Right?
if you want to be real fancy, you could even say 1775
Ooh,
if you
could.
wanted to make arguments.
You could.
But yes.
Yeah, the Continental Congress. But I'm just saying, right? That's what was going in my head. It's like he probably wants the 1776 answer, or does he want the end of the war in 1783, or maybe more appropriately when the Constitution was ratified in 1787. But that my brain was doing that at the that was at the Philadelphia Convention. You just keep in mind that was our capital. But nevertheless, they had no. They said 1962. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I get it. I get it. Every
Wow.
generation thinks the generation before them's a mess. Da 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 da. I get that.
Well,
But I'm not that
but
damn
this
old.
is a little more real, though.
There's
It's a little
something
more real.
wrong with these kids.
Something's wrong
There's
with these
something
kids,
wrong with
dude.
them.
Yeah.
The kids are not all right. They really
They
truly
are
aren't.
not. That's a good song. But anyway, perception. Now, let's take a break and do something a little more fun. Okay,
Let's do it.
and let's come back over here to this.
Rumor: Joel Edgerton and Josh Hartnett up for Harvey Dent slash Two Face in the Batman Part 2.
Okay. Now, we did get news
Mm,
from Warner Brothers that they're planning on creating a cinematic universe for Batman. Uh,
Correct.
about time, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the only thing that's working.
Yes.
Yeah.
As he
Uh,
does.
yeah,
Batman carrying the American comic industry
as
for 20
usual.
years at
Yeah,
least.
as usual.
Yeah.
But I don't really know these guys so well, so I thought we'd go take a look at them and see. So here's the Joel Edgerton guy. He doesn't look familiar to me. But let's see what he's got here. So these are his actor thingies. Let's see if I recognize anything he's been in at all. Okay, so he's been doing his acting thing. Ooh, this dude's been around. She.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, he's
so
been around a while.
1995. Okay. Okay.
Bit parts back then.
I don't see anything I recognize at all. Nope. The Three Stooges movie, he played some side character. Okay. So it looked like it took him a while to hit. He's just doing bit things. He was somewhere in the Attack of the Clones. Don't recall him. Okay. King
He was
Arthur.
Owen.
Yeah,
According to that, he was young Uncle Owen,
Oh, young
I
Uncle
believe.
Owen. All right, yeah. So some
Yeah.
little thing was on screen for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Don't know. Smoking Aces sounds a little bit familiar, or maybe I'm thinking of Motorhead. Let's see here.
The
Yeah,
Ace of Spades.
the Ace of Spades, Ace of Spades.
Ah, rest in peace.
Yes, understand that. I just sang that way better than Lemmy did. Mhm.
Listen to
bullshit.
me. Don't you ever disrespect Lemmy. I have it under good authority from Brendan Fraser that Lemmy is in fact God.
Fair enough. We'll go with that then. So yeah, I don't see anything at all where I've seen this guy. I've seen
Uh,
none of this
I
shit.
seen Bright, but I don't remember him in Bright.
Yeah, once again, he's some little background character. I don't know. That's not necessarily a bad thing. The dude's got a career, so he
Years
clearly,
of experience.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that he's upgraded his level over that time. But he's nobody. He's a character actor, which is fine. That's not
Yeah.
a bad thing.
Which actually could be good
It could
for
be.
this particular character because it's a character actor's character,
It
right?
can
Like
be.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be. It's depending how they write him, of course. But if they write him properly, you would need a character actor. I think that would be the best person to play this character. I've said character a lot in the last 5
Well,
minutes.
it would be nice to get a really good Harvey Dent, though. So,
Yeah.
okay, this guy is a character actor and he's got a lot of experience. All right. So there we go. We got Joel Edgerton, whoever that is. Okay, he's Welsh. No,
Well,
he's Australian Welsh.
yep.
Okay,
Literally from South Wales, New
which
South
is
Wales.
which is a problem, I'm sure.
Yep.
But anyway, all right. Or I have Josh Josh Hartnett, who looks a little more familiar to me. I don't know
Yep.
why you ladies are there. You're not Josh Hartnett. You are not.
Are
Um,
you sure? You don't know
I
anymore.
well, that's true. Anyway, let's see here. This guy has been around a while too. Very similar. Oh,
Yep.
okay. Immediately, I recognize this guy from his very first movie in Halloween H2O. Okay. He was Zeke in The Faculty. I like that movie. So already I
No,
recognize this guy.
Josh
Yeah.
is a good actor. He's a good actor. No doubt.
Pearl
I would say
Harbor.
he's
Oh,
probably
yeah.
a better actor than Edgerton personally.
Oh, he played
Uh,
every. Okay. Yeah, I recognize this guy.
yep, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, he's been in a lot of stuff. He's another one though. He's always kind of had secondary background,
Yeah, he's character
n-
actor. Yeah, that's what he
character
is.
actor.
But I
But
know
again,
who he
I don't
is.
hate
Yeah.
either of these picks simply
Yeah.
because I think you need. I don't want there
Ooh, he
to be
played Ethan.
somebody who's a big name or a hot because Two Face is a certain. I want Two Face. I want the character to be as accurate as possible. And I think the best way to do that is to pick somebody who isn't a somebody, if that makes sense. Somebody who has the talent, who's been around, they're experienced, but they're not, an A-list, whatever type celebrity. Because when that happens often, those celebrities overpower the role, right? With
They can.
their carte
Yeah.
blanche, whatever.
Unless their
And
name
you
is
lose
Anthony
something.
and Hopkins.
That's correct. Unless you're literally the greatest living actor. That's right. But yeah, no, so I want somebody who's not necessarily an unknown. I don't think that's necessary. Just somebody who has the experience, like both these guys do, to play a deep role,
Oh, that's cool, Camp Kennedy.
but doesn't have the big, fanfare. You know, I think that's good because then we're more likely to see more of Two-Face over Harvey Dent, if that makes sense. One of the things that we gave credit to Sparkle Boy for was the fact that he was in the cowl most of the movie, because most stars won't do that. We know this, so that was impressive. It's one of the reasons that movie was so good.
Right.
So this could be interesting. One of these guys, if they can pull it off, they can get to that level of split personality and make it believable, and it has to come off as sincere.
Yeah.
Right? It can't come off as a bit.
Yeah, no, it's hard. It's a hard role, especially in the feeling of the way they're doing the Batman, the way
Yep.
they're doing it. Matt Reeves is doing it. I personally, Grimlock, I would guess what I would go with the guy on the right, which I guess his name is Josh Hartnett. Not because I know him, I remember him, that I don't remember the other guy, but because Harvey is a slick DA political animal. And he
Yep.
looks more kind of like a handsome dude, where the other guy is, yeah, the other guy doesn't look that way. I would go. Well, what do you think, Grimlock? Which one do you think would be a better choice?
I'm gonna go with the guy on the right because the first dude looks like that grizzled police vet you see like in every movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like he should have a
Like
cigarette in his mouth right now.
like yeah, like his thoughts smokes like unfiltered cigarettes.
Right. I mean,
Gonna-
but there are a couple of those figures in the Batman, though, so maybe there's a place for
Yes.
him. But I agree. I think this Josh Hartnett looks better. Captain Canada says Edgerton and Hardy play brothers, and Nick Nolte plays the dad in. Oh, that sounds fun. That's a good little. Nick
That's
Nolte's
interesting.
awesome. What do you think? Which one would you choose?
Hartnett, yeah. On the fact that I know both these guys can probably pull this off, especially if they're given good direction and a good script. But he looks more like Dent. He just has more of a Dent-like
Yeah,
features to him
slick
and stuff.
lawyer.
So
Yeah,
yeah, it looks like a scumbag a little bit,
little bit.
like a lawyer, a politician.
You know who
He's
would be
got that
great?
look about him.
Would be Jason Bateman. Jason
Yeah.
Bateman would be
Yeah.
perfect.
That's the best casting I've heard in years, right there. That was brilliant, right there.
Yeah.
He'd kill Harvey Dent.
He would
Kill it.
because he can do real acting. He's not just
Yes.
a goofball. He can actually act.
Well, it'd be kind of nice to see a take on Two-Face that's a little bit more quippy, less punny and more quippy. And I think Bateman could pull that off and still make it menacing.
And we're not really restricted by age with Dent, right?
No.
He can be older. It's not a problem at all. Well-established DA should be older. But anyway, that's happy because we did enjoy the Batman. It was a fun little flick. There were a couple little things out of Catwoman, not least being that she was black, but they've been doing that for a long time. Eartha Kitt, of course, was very famous Catwoman.
Who I think was the best on-screen Catwoman. Eartha Kitt.
She was
I love
interesting,
Eartha
and
Kitt.
this girl was clearly trying to be Eartha. But I didn't mind her at all. She was sexy little thing, dude. And
Zoe Kravitz.
yeah, no, she was sexy little thing, and I didn't mind her at all. What did you think, Grimlock?
What? The Batman? Didn't
Yeah.
watch it.
Oh, well, you should. It's actually not that bad, dude. Fine.
He's slow on the uptake with movies. Our boy Grimlock.
okay.
He takes his
Well,
time.
once again, look at
that, and
Look at that.
I'm being a lot less lenient on the race swaps these days. That's I was letting it go before, but now it's like, you know what? Fuck them. This is the game you want to play. that is now a deal breaker. I don't even care if the fucking character's on screen for 30 seconds. You
That's
race
fine.
swapped them,
That's
not
fine.
watching it.
No, that's fine. That I get that, and it is a race swap, even though they've done it several times with Catwoman. But I get it. In the comic, she's Selena Kyle is a white girl.
Well, look, because they know that they're doing it on purpose. This is not about the best actor for the job.
Yeah,
This is
dude.
about pissing. This is about pissing people off, and I'm
You're
like,
right.
okay, you could play that game.
Yeah, you're
I'm
right.
not going to give you my money because you not getting my money hurts a lot more than you pissing me off.
That's fair. But the good thing about the only good thing I'll say in regards to it is that it wasn't an ugly girl. She wasn't played ugly. She wasn't played as this girl boss at all. Matter of
Yeah.
fact, Batman put her in her place quick, and she was all wet and bothered about him, dude. So it wasn't
As
the
she should be.
typical thing we see out of the feminists. It wasn't. And she, like I said, she is quite attractive, young lady.
That is the best thing about their dynamic is, well, at least every iteration I've ever paid attention to is Batman puts her in her place and she loves that.
She
'Cause no one
does
else
love it,
no one
dude.
else does. No
Yeah.
one else, she just no one else has that ability, but because he is who he is, she just can't get enough, and that's why she literally can't get enough. She can't stay away from him.
And the way, because she could walk through lunks, and stuff like that, and that's
Yep.
fine, because the way they had her fighting makes sense. It's how a woman would fight, going against, these just kind of meatheads, right? But when she went at Batman, she tried to go right at dude. He dealt with her instantly. She was not a
Instantly.
threat at all,
Yep.
right? And as it should be, because it's freaking Batman. There's very few people who go hand to hand with him, right?
Yes.
So and even if you came down to a straight fight, he would beat Superman in a straight fight because he's a way better fighter. But Superman would just stand there and kind of
Overpower him.
laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know what I mean. But anyway, let's move on from this and let quick little international news.
Uh-oh. Police violence. How can France tackle racial profiling without first addressing race? What?
Yeah. Well,
That sentence doesn't make any
Now,
sense.
I have this wild concept for the. It's wild. I know they may not have tried it
Extreme,
before.
even.
It might be crazy enough. You might have to sit down and have a drink before you hear me say this.
Uh-oh.
How about this? If you see a motherfucker committing a crime, you arrest the son of a bitch. If
Yeah.
they're not doing anything,
Yeah.
Pretty
you leave them the fuck alone.
That's true.
It's pretty
That's true.
straightforward.
Wow.
But I chose this headline from a French news site intentionally. This is a French news site in English, but I chose it very specifically because, of course, the headline is about how the French are bad,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
Well,
Now-
y'all niggas eat snails. I mean, come
Well,
on.
it's fair.
They do eat snails.
But the thing with it is, this is an immigration issue, a migration issue. Obviously, it's Muslim violence. That kid that got shot, there's a video. Should they have been so aggressive? Well, they had arrested him many times because the French system is just as broken as the American one, and it's just a revolving door. They knew who the kid was. He wasn't even old enough to have a driver's license in France. You have to be 18 years old, by the way, to get a driver's license in France. It was in a stolen car, and they've dealt with this kid many, many times. They knew exactly who he was because he's a criminal. Now, should he have got shot? Is it good he got shot? Nah, of course not. But I mean, he brought it on himself. He literally tried to run the cop over. So I mean, I kind of get cops tend not to like that shit. But the fact that the French are bad, and this is purely a Muslim issue, it's an Algerian issue. Okay, and you have to
Mhm.
understand a little bit that Algeria, I won't bother to ask where it is. I'll just tell you it's in North Africa. Okay.
That's right.
But they're all the Muslim types. They're not blacks, right? It's one of the Islamic, conquering phase, right, of North Africa. But nevertheless, now, like all the other European powers in the 19th century, they went in and were trying to exploit resources in some of the situations were quite abysmal, where, oh, I would even use the word horrific. and how the Europeans were treating the Africans to get their stuff. And of course, France is paying for a lot of that now because they did quite a matter of fact. The French still kind of hold a lot of places, but what they did in Algeria was ugly. Right, in the 19th century, but a lot of people seem to forget that after World War II, the only country that was really forced, real World War One and World War II, the only country that was really forced uh, uh, to kind of give back land and pay reparations and stuff like that, other than Germany, was Britain,
Yep.
right? And Britain lost their kingdom, and of course they had a little queen over there, who just died here recently, that spent her entire life trying to dismantle the power of the British Empire, and yet they
Mhm.
they say she's beloved. She's the worst damn queen you've ever had. But whatever.
Of course.
I'm not here to talk about that. But here's the thing, though. What a lot of people don't understand is this whole turning over of properties from all the European colonies to their independence. There was a huge wave of it in the 1960s,
Hmm.
right? A whole wave of it, and that's what brought us to where we are with Burma, Vietnam. I mean, so many countries, African countries, Bangladesh, and that's particularly with the British. Most of the African countries, your South America, Portugal. Keep in mind that their capital was actually Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, not Lisbon, not right? But it was in the 1960s a lot of that shit happened. A lot of it. And of course, Algeria, this whole thing is happening with the French stupidly open their doors to Africans and Muslims, even though we've been fighting them for centuries. This is just revenge. I know you guys are
Yeah.
seeing this on the news. I know you're seeing that French is in a civil war. French is done. France is on fire, which it is. This is pure revenge. It has nothing to do with racial profiling or any of this stupid shit. It's just like that British mom up in Nottingham, whose child was just murdered by a bunch of immigrants or an immigrant. The first thing she gets up and said, "Let's not blame the Muslims for this." What a brainworm you have that you're dead.
Broken.
The first thing you say about your dead kid is don't blame the Muslims. No, fuck them.
Yeah.
We've been fighting them for centuries, you dumbass. There's a reason why we've been fighting them. There's a reason. And because the Europeans are so soft-toed about shit, if we went back to Charlemagne and those other kind of things, that
Oh.
type of thinking, we would not have this problem today, and the Middle Easterners would not be oppressed like they are. If we would just get off our frickin' chairs, bring our frickin' military, and absolutely trounce the shit out of every Muslim on the face of this planet and come at me, YouTube, we would be in a much better place. No, seriously.
Yes.
Because
No, I
this
agree with you.
soft-toed shit is why these things happen. This is nothing about
Actual.
racism. It has nothing to do with this is revenge. The Algerians are burning down your cities because you were shitheads to them in your colonial period, which you were. And that's
Yeah.
that. Because the French were the worst of any of them. There was a German,
They
like a
always
German king
are.
that was pretty bad. They always are. Yeah.
The French have always been. I've seen people who have made this statement, and from what I've studied, it's correct. France has been the enemy of Europe since its inception.
Oh yeah. Well,
It has
because
always been a problem for all of the other Europeans because they're just the worst. They're
well,
the worst.
well, because the Catholic Church set them up as their sword.
Yes.
And it was the French army that would come in and smash you about the head and shoulders if you didn't do what you were told to do, and that lasted
Yep.
for it's still kind of going on.
Yep.
But because keep in mind they are very Catholic, right?
Super Catholic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're not Protestant at all. Matter of fact, they go to Europe and find Protestants. There ain't a lot of them. Most of the Protestants you're going to find are Lutherans over in Denmark, of all places. How that happened? Because
I've
all the
said
damn
it for
Protestants
years.
came to a little country called America.
Yeah, they had to get out of there
They
because
had
they
to
were being
escape.
literally
Yeah,
oppressed.
they were being murdered.
I
Actually,
Yes, I've said it for years that the problem isn't imperialism. It's the problem is we're not actually doing that.
Yeah,
That's
we
not
should
what
do
we're doing.
that.
I don't know what you call what we're doing with our war. It's just profiteering, really,
Yeah.
because there's no actual ideology behind it other than make ourselves rich. If it was actual imperialism, Roman style imperialism, where you bring the barbarians to heel, the world would be a much better place. When the British did it, the world is a much better place because of it. Uh, it just is. You can argue about their methods all you want, and that's fine. I agree with it for the most part. I think they went too far. But overall, the world's a better place because of British imperialism. It just is.
Well, they
And
brought a
it's
lot
this
of innovation and
they brought so
modernity.
much of the yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So much of these places that were living in like before the Middle Ages even, and they brought them up. They
Mhm.
brought them up slowly, whether they did it intentionally or not. I think that a lot of it was intentional. It doesn't really matter because the effect of it is that's exactly what happened. You just
Right.
mentioned a great example of European colonial imperialism in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Brazil wouldn't exist today the way it does if it wasn't for that. Just simply wouldn't.
Yeah.
It would probably still just be some backwater no one wants to go to,
It's
like
true.
most of Brazil is.
Well,
Um,
no, definitely that's true for down there. But Southeast Asia is exactly the same, from India
yep.
all the way over. If it weren't for the British and the French and some of the other ones, they would still be just primitives. They really were low level. Like for instance, one of the richest and most popular cities in say Thailand, Pattaya, right? Pattaya is a huge tourist mecca. It's making crazy money. It's very modern, skyscrapers all over the place. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous paradise. 40 years ago, in my lifetime, it was a little teeny fishing village with
Wasteland, basically.
literal huts, grass
Yep.
roofed huts, literally. But the British and other Europeans brought a lot of modernity to many, many countries, and today you wouldn't even notice it. Like Jakarta, the great
Yep.
mega city of Jakarta, right? That
Hmm.
was literally a British fort, literally.
Yes.
Singapore, one of the richest little countries on the earth, literally a British port,
Yep.
right? Yeah, we could go on all day.
And
Anyway,
a pretty good place to live. But my point is I agree with you. I think the problem is getting uh, getting the Saxon to hate, as the poem says, and that is a serious problem because it's not naturally in the nature of the European cultures to be hateful. Believe it or not, I know all the propaganda tells you otherwise, but it's just not true. They're incredibly inclusive of everybody as long as you behave within a certain set of standards and you don't cause trouble. For the most part, you're welcome to enjoy the culture.
yeah.
Um, and it's been that way for a very, very long time. Part of that is Christian universalism, but otherwise, it's also even before that. Even pagan Europe was much more open and welcoming than a lot of other places in the world.
Yeah, it's gone
Most other
down. That's
places.
true.
Yeah.
Grimlock. I say we all go to Tartaria and eat giant bowls of rice.
Boy, what's with
Sounds like
that
a plan.
giant rice? I've never seen such things. They
It
really do have
is.
wonders.
They do have wonders, and you can eat your rice while some beautiful lady caresses your neck and back, lower back
I
maybe,
like
but
it.
I'd go with the upper back first with their large furry breasts.
Well, I don't
Okay.
know about the furry part. I'll let you have the furry part. But no, my,
No,
my overarching point is you nailed it. If we could get back to Charlemagne, we don't need Hitler or Napoleon or any of those. Charlemagne will do. Charlemagne was one of the greatest leaders of all time, one of the most enlightened men to ever live. He conquered Europe, was the last one to actually truly do it, or most of it anyway, Central Europe.
He put those
Um,
Catholics in their place too.
put the Catholics in their place to the point where they literally crowned him Emperor of Rome.
They did.
Like,
Well, he didn't
this
give them
guy
much
was a
choice.
special character. Yeah, he didn't. No, you were doing it or you were getting got.
Yeah.
He was a special man in history. He's definitely one of the 1,000 men who changed the world. And I would oh my God, if Europe could have a Charlemagne right now, the world would be a much different place. Let's
Yeah.
put it that way, and it'd be a better place because his biggest thing was he had a very Roman mindset of go and conquer to educate the world.
Yeah.
They weren't just conquering for the land; they actually thought they were making the world a better place by doing it.
Well,
That's what they believed.
those Merovingians and Carolingians that came up in that succession to France, they didn't play around, dude.
No,
They did
no, they
not
didn't
play
mess around.
around. But anyway, that's not the France we have now.
No.
Because
No,
the
the
France
France,
we have now is freaking Los Angeles.
the France you have now is what happens when your government does not work in the interest of the people. You've said
Yeah.
this
Correct.
numerous times, and
Yeah.
we're seeing it in so many places. This is not in the interest of the people. And look, there's nothing against bringing in foreigners. That's not the fucking problem.
No, it's not the problem. No.
Because people will fucking
Just
you just don't you're xenophobic. No,
what
what happens is
foreigners? Choose,
you
be
bring
choosy.
in
Yeah.
when you don't vet your foreigners, number one, and two, when you don't tell them this important thing, whatever bullshit you're leaving behind, leave that shit where you left.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
Don't
it
true.
doesn't
bring that
belong
shit
here.
here.
That's
Doesn't
Don't
true.
bring
belong
that
here.
shit here. You're supposed to be coming here for a
Yeah.
new life, a clean slate, whatever the fuck you're saying. Start fresh. Whatever bullshit you're leaving, leave it there.
That's true.
If
It's
you left if you left Algeria because of the bullshit there, leave it in Algeria.
Right.
If you
Well,
fucking it's that simple. And if
it
you
is.
can't do that, don't bring your ass here.
Well, there was
stay
an
where you are.
there you stay where you are. There was an imam, I think it was from the UAE, and of course that's a very, moderate Islam, right?
Yeah.
But there was an imam that came up speaking here and very recently, and he's like, he doesn't understand the silly. He used the word governmentalism of the EU. You do because he's basically saying you do realize these immigrants that you're taking in, these are the people that we would jail.
Yes.
So he's not; these aren't just happy Muslims looking for a better chance. These are the criminals fleeing their countries, is what this imam was saying.
I'll say it since you can't say it. The niggas. These are
Yeah,
the niggas.
no, that's true. It
The,
is.
the
Um,
upstanding citizens are fine. They stayed, but the niggas.
yeah, or they went
You
to Turkey.
decided you
Turkey got
decided that you was gonna make a political statement, and you got niggas.
Yeah, no, true.
Yep.
You
And a
know,
lot of the wiser, smarter people that did leave the country went to places like Turkey, right?
Yep.
it you know the old saying, you lay down with dogs, you come up with fleas. Well, you try to
Yeah,
make a political statement, you come up with niggas.
you
So
do, and they itch. But and keep in mind the whole thing was funny to me too. While literally it's still going on, by the way. While France is on fire, and I don't mean it's not just Paris. It's everywhere in France is on fire, literally on
Yep.
fire. By the way, they're running around,
Full
and they're
revolution.
better than our activists. Keep that in mind because they run around with automatic weapons, bazookas, taking vehicles, smashing them into buildings. That's way more serious than our little Antifa over in America, right? But the whole time, little old baby Macron, the actual Rothschild employee, right? Literal, I'm not exaggerating that. He was at an Elton John concert, just dancing badly. Yeah, and then he got
Yep.
called out for that, and he made a statement. It's a video games. He literally said that. I'm not joking. I'm not exaggerating that at all. He blamed video games for the violence. Because he doesn't really know. He's too busy dancing to Elton John, even though his entire country's on fire. Priorities and shit. It's kind of
As
like that.
globalists tend to do. Yeah.
It's very globalist because he don't give a shit about France. But anyway, I'm
No.
gonna move on from it. But mm-hmm,
All I will
mm,
say is Vive la France. Hopefully there's enough fire somewhere down in the cockles of their souls to find Napoleonic fury and save their damn country, because as
yeah,
much as France has been a thorn in the side of European civilization since forever, they still deserve to exist.
of course they do.
So
Yeah, they got to
they
clean
need to
this out.
fight back.
They do.
They got to
And
do it.
And a little side thing I saw before I move on though that I thought was really interesting. 45,000, police are on the streets. 45,000. Keep in mind that's the army that Alexander conquered the world with.
Yes,
Same size, right?
that's right.
45,000. But it's not enough. And what you're seeing is huge numbers of French men, actual French men, are walking with smaller groups of police or with them and going into the streets and trying to shut this down. So there are many videos of large groups of French men just going into the street to deal with this. And Macron is oblivious, and I'm not hearing much comment coming out of the politicians in regards. Clearly, the police are happy for the assistance. Now, here's the thing: if that happened in American cities, they had we deploy police when Antifa or Black Lives Matter are doing their shit. But imagine that, say 50,000 civilians decided to go up and say, "Hey, cops, we're going to help you out." How would that go over, you think?
It would depend on how dire the situation is.
Yeah,
If
but
you're in a situation like they're over there, I think most of the police officers, or at least the officers on the ground, would definitely
of
welcome it.
course. But the
Whether or not the brass
mayors,
and
the media,
bureaucracies,
the
yeah.
politicians would not shut
Oh
up,
my God, that's
right?
fine. Listen, as the man once famously said, maybe you'll know who I mean. Don't quote law to men with swords.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
doesn't matter. Your opinion is irrelevant if your enemy is willing to kill you.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter what you think about it. If they're willing to take your life, all that matters is survival.
Right.
That's it.
And keep in mind, Black Lives Matter and Antifa have been saying that the whole time.
Yep.
They're quite honest about they wanting Whitey dead. But anyway, let's move on to good news. I think for me, good news.
Over 1,000 SAG-AFTRA, what the hell is that? Members call on union leaders to push back against any negotiation terms involving AI. What is that? I'm assuming that's the writers, the AFTRA.
No, no, no. Let me. I'll lay it out for you. We know the writers are still striking. Well, now
Yep.
the Screen Actors Guild, the American Federation of Television Radio Artists,
Ah.
SAG-AFTRA, union, are on strike too.
Oh God. Oh, thank
No, let's
God.
thank God. Good. So the
Yes.
writers are
Yes.
on strike and the actors are on strike. But I found this very interesting. There's a statistic in here they proudly gave up. Because SAG is, wants to dominate the movie industry. They and they
Continue
they
to.
they're kind of like Egyptologists.
Yes.
Okay. But I saw a very
Cartel.
interesting little thing here. It says earlier this month, ahead of upcoming industry-wide TV and theatrical contract negotiations, that which is a strike going on, announced that no, the Grimlock, help me out. You help me out. 40.
I'm broken up. The CW actors are going on strike. How will I get by my days?
That's true. That's true. But here's my question. I got a math question for you. Okay. 47.69% of SAG's eligible members, or roughly 65,000 individuals, had voted 97.91% in favor of authorizing a strike. Now, let me read it again. SAG announced that 47.69% of its eligible members, or roughly 65,000 individuals, had voted 97.91% in favor of authorizing a strike. So I
So 45% of your eligible members are in favor of this shit.
well,
Yes.
yeah, but I don't understand. I don't. Why do I have two numbers?
Bad writing.
Because the average person reading this is a fucking moron, and they're gonna see the two biggest numbers and think it's significant.
So do you think it's like that global warming dude down in Australia that put out his report, and he sent out like tons and tons of requests for his paper to be reviewed, and none of the actual meteorologists responded to him. Only 5% responded, and the 5% that did respond, 97% of them agreed. Is it like that?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's kind of like when they use like certain statistics on minorities, and they always use the per capita number because the per capita number will always be higher with a minority.
I
It's the
see.
same. It's the same bullshit. Yeah, we're gonna take the larger number because the average person reading this is gonna be too stupid to see. Yeah, that's
So
not even half their fucking union right there.
So 45% of their members voted to go on strike, and that's enough to go on strike. Isn't it usually like 51%?
You would
Unless
think.
there was just a lot of people who abstained and
Yeah,
their
I
vote
I don't know
goes to
what
the
this
affirmative.
97.91% is. I think it's kind of like that global warming report bullshit. Because they
Sounds
kept
about
quoting
right.
that over and over. It's like 97% of all scientists agree. No,
Yeah.
not
It was
really.
just 97% of the ones who answered.
Which
That's
was
all.
5%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Oh, silliness.
silly.
This is good news
It
though.
is.
Chester,
It
it's
is.
funny because somebody in a different server, I don't know if it was posted in this one or not, but they posted that just this year, most of the big studios have either suspended, fired, or asked them to resign their DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion officers, right? The
They did.
top people
They
in that.
have. They have. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Four
and it's
four of them have
funny.
been fired.
It's funny to me that now we're seeing the other functionaries of this lunacy, this overly politicized nonsense that they've done intentionally. By the way, don't ever let them tell you that what why are you making it political? You made it political. We didn't do it.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
these people now they're on strike. You see, now you got strikes all over the place from these same groups of people because the studios are tired of their crap. Not the studio necessarily like the talking heads, the people that we know, the people we don't, the ones who care about the money, because it's still a business at the end of the day, and there are still some who actually want to make some money. Just a crazy thought. They actually like not losing $600 million on a film. I know it's nuts. Uh, so these people, I think, are starting. They're starting their big pushback, and I think that's what you're starting to see. But the reason why that's so funny to me is because I had predicted this when we first started this show. What was that, 5 years ago now?
Hmm.
That this is exactly the time frame it would happen in 2022, 2023 into 2024 is when you'll start to see this stuff fall apart for various reasons. But the best one is they can't sustain it anymore. It's not popular. This hyper left super liberal nonsense that they've been pushing is not popular in most of the world. Not just in America, in most of the world by a huge majority. They are a super minority of people who think this way and who push this stuff and want to watch it or even, care about it or whatever. They are in a super minority, almost an ultra minority. They're under 10% easily of the consuming public of the world that wants to see this kind of nonsense. So you're seeing the backlash now. And the way that people are backlashing is Hollywood's dying. It's literally dying this year. This has been one of the worst
Yeah.
years, if not the worst year they've ever had. And it's because people are just, nah, I'm good. They've
Yeah.
completely checked out. Even when there's good stuff, that's not getting the numbers it probably should be getting because people are just they're done.
Yeah,
Tired
they're
They're
of the
doped out.
bullshit.
absolutely done.
And I wonder if this might have something to do with it. Now, I don't know who this lady is. This just says SAG members. She's representing this nice Jewish, I'm sure she's a very nice Jewish lady. But
Yep.
let take a look at this picture for a moment. She's talking on a Zoom call or something like that. We got a picture of a phoenix over here. We have a Tiffany scone. Do you know how much those
Yep.
cost? She's got some weird cave painting art on the wall, which I'm sure she spent several $1 million on. That's a very expensive seat. She gets fresh flowers, so those are definitely being brought in. This is a colonial revival house. Look at the molding on the top and the molding out in the hallway. Um,
Yep.
this is an
Which is
image of
expensive.
really heavy wealth. This is
Yes.
not nouveau rich. This is rich, actual wealth,
Generational.
generational. And it's interesting that Bounding into Comics here chose this picture. I don't know who she is.
Mm.
Someone might recognize this Jewish lady. But beyond all the information her room is giving me, her face is giving me information as well.
Mm.
She doesn't look very nice.
Mm-mm.
Look at her eyes, dude. Look at them.
Mm.
It's like a dead, murderous beast. Look at her eyes, dude.
Yes.
No,
A
seriously.
consumer.
Yeah, a
Genuinely.
predator. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know who you are, nor do I care. Let's see here. Anything interesting? Here's a Zoom call. Don't know who any of you are. Don't care. Okay. I authorize, I vote yes for AI protections, because they're noticing. Once again, I keep seeing Duncan Crabtree Ireland. I don't know who you are, but they're very upset about the AIs. And the
They're gonna
thing
lose this battle. I
they
hope they
are, I'm going to
understand.
go back to Miss Evil because that's the picture right
They
there.
might get some contracts signed, and maybe for a few years they will, because the AI is just not ready yet. It's not. It's very close,
It is
but it's
close.
not.
Yeah.
So they'll get some things on paper, and things will calm down eventually. But they are going to lose in the end.
Oh yeah.
The computers
Oh yeah.
are going to replace a lot of these low-level creative people
Yeah.
who churn out great masterpieces of cinema,
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't know, Transformers movies.
Yeah. No, they
In
will.
fact,
And it'll probably be
let the
better.
robots write those.
Yeah.
Exactly. Maybe
Probably
they
be
can do
better.
it better.
Well, and it's funny how reality is stranger than fiction, right? Because
Yep.
as it seems with this whole AI thing, robots they're just not getting it. It's just not coming together. The
Yep.
actual robotic body and the AI to control it. It's just not really coming together in the way we envisioned. But
Laborers.
right, but the AI thing is certainly can replace these easier jobs. Isn't it interesting what the easier job
Mhm.
is? Because it's not the carpenter. It's not the
No, it's
electrician or the plumber.
not the
Those are
person that needs
necessary.
real world, constantly updating problem solving skills.
Right.
Because that's what
It's
you're doing. When you
yeah.
build things, it's not like putting together a Lego set,
No.
which most people can't do
No, it's
anyway.
problem solving
It's
constantly.
much more difficult. Yeah, there's always a problem. There's always something you have to fix. Always, constantly. It never stops. Even as a technician repairing appliances and things, you're always constantly, there's always something,
Oh yeah.
at least one thing that makes it more annoying than it needs to be, that you have to find a way around.
Yeah. So Jennifer Lawrence she's aged.
That's
Uh,
not
but they're really, really worried about it. I'm going to let Grimlock have his say in this, and I'm going to go put some hot coffee on. So I'll be back in a minute.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
I don't
Yeah.
feel sorry for these fucking idiots. I don't feel
Yeah.
sorry for any of them.
Yeah.
And look, most people, you don't want to see people lose their jobs, but you know, there's also that group of people. Everybody's worked with them that they don't come in and they spend more time bitching about what they don't got than doing their fucking job, and that's these fucking writers. Look,
Yep.
we've been sitting here, some of us, some longer than others, talking about how these people have butchered, the entertainment industry, whether it's comics, movies, TV shows, you name it, they've fucked them up.
Yep.
And if you had actually done good shit, I could actually be on your side. But considering what you've done the past decade now, and where you have people like Jessica Gao and who's that other retarded fuck who came out and basically said, "Yeah, we wrote these shows specifically to piss people off."
Yep.
And now that you're potentially losing your job, I'm supposed to feel sorry for you, nigga. You don't get the fuck out my face with that bullshit.
Yep.
Get your ass.
Exactly.
You better sign up for that fucking EBT card and get in line with everybody else.
Well, here's the funniest part about it, right? So they're complaining. One of the biggest complaints is they're afraid AI is going to replace them. I'm gonna spoil that for you.
They've
It
already
is.
done that.
But there's a solution to this which they refuse to accept, because then they would have to actually, learn something. Go learn how to use the AI, and then you can be the writer behind the writer, which is what the smart people right now, because there's a lot of artists who are freaking out about AI art replacing them and this and da 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 da. Okay, I understand. I get why you're afraid. I get that. But there's an opportunity here that you're missing. You seeing an obstacle, that's an opportunity. If you go and master the AI, and especially if you have knowledge of art, or you have knowledge of writing, or you have knowledge of coding, oh my God, what you can do with it! You just 10x your power now. At least, because now it can do it in a split second. It can do what take you hours, days, weeks in 10 seconds. And then you can go in, and since you know about, art and certain things, perspective, da da da, that the computer simply doesn't know, you can add the soul to it. You can be the thing that brings that basic formula, that basic template, brings it to life. And that is something a computer, at least as of now, cannot actually do. It can make the great facsimile that looks good, especially if it's corporate, the generic art that doesn't need to have a soul or whatever you want to call it anyway. It can't really do that yet. It might get there. But until that time, you as an artist or a writer or whatever, you can. So use it. Use it and master it and become the master of the AI. And then you don't have to worry about being replaced, because what will happen is you'll become the person that the people go to when the AI doesn't give them what they want. You'll be the go-to person, and that will give you way more, for one, way more wealth, and two, way more respect and just everything that you could ever want. That most of these people, the reason why they got into this writing and stuff is they wanted the clout of it. Imagine if you were, let's say you worked for Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers decides in a year or two they're going to use all AI scripts for their new movies. The AI is going to do it all. But there's some producer out there whose job is to effectively curate, edit, and collate the AI's writing to make it, more human, more come off with more empathy and stuff like this. That person's going to make a fuckload of money, an insane amount of, way more money than a regular writer would make, because now they're in charge of the whole deal, or they have a team that's in charge of the whole deal. These people are short-sighted and lazy. If you get out in front of AI right now, it's so efficient. You could pump out so much good shit and be at the top, be at the front of this new wave. AI is going to be the biggest industry in the world in the next 10, but by the end of this decade, there will be nothing that touches it. And you could be in front of that if you know what you're doing. If you know how to write, you know how to be an artist, or you know coding, or you know any of these things that AI is challenging right now. You could be in front of that if you just sat down, take a week or two, and just studied it and learned the ins and outs and the intricacies of what you can do with it. And with your knowledge of the field itself, you could do so much great shit. But there's so many people who are there. The fear has paralyzed them. They're like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I can't this, I can't that, whatever. And because of that, they're just going to get steamrolled, because the machines are coming. This battle could have been won 20 years ago if people had listened, but that time's over now. The AI's here, and it's amazing. It's actually amazing what it can do.
And they've done their best to delay it as long as they could, to be honest with you.
Yes.
But I love the information a single picture can give. There's even an expression: a picture is worth 1,000 words. Grimlock, would you like to elucidate me upon where in the world she's sitting? Where do you think this apartment is, this condo, this walk-up?
I'm gonna guess that she's in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I don't think so. That's Greek revival, dude, and I want to slap her through the screen for painting over those beautiful wood mahogany panels there. I think this is New England or possibly New York. Boston. I'm going to say Boston.
Could do.
Wouldn't be shocked.
Could do.
Yeah.
Could do. She looks like that kind of East Coast pretentious. Yep.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I know that well. I know it well.
I bet you do.
But yeah.
No, it's just this whole thing. It's these people. Some of them are probably really good people and probably very creative. Honestly, they do exist in Hollywood still. I know they're hard to find lately, but they're out there, and they're just afraid. But if they would just step back, stop getting in their little bubbles of a bunch of scared little lemmings, and think, just think. This is not an obstacle. This is an opportunity. It is the biggest one of your life. You can get out in front of this right now and master this tool, because that's what it is. And then you don't have to worry about it. You can make money forever just using the AI, because you know how to get the AI to make what you want it to make. And that is going to be a massively valuable skill. More than anything else, it's going to be more valuable than being an artist right now, unless you get lucky and, J.K. Rowling big. It's going to be more valuable than being a writer. It just is. If you're the person who can master it, you're going to be a multi-millionaire. Truly. But these people they live in this fear bubble, and they don't want to move when they're going to miss their window. Somebody's going to do it. Somebody's going to be this person I'm talking about. I guarantee it. They're probably already getting put in this position, because these big creative, quote unquote, corporations, these entertainment companies, They're all about using AI. Of course they are. Cut out all the writers? Hell yeah. Cut out all the artists? Hell yeah. I don't have to pay them? Sweet. So I can pay one guy to do all my art for like 10 movies because he can do it with a computer, with AI? Do it, pay him. You see what I mean? Like, this is going to happen. You can't stop it, and pretending like you can is just going to bring you more pain. So your best solution is, if you can't beat them, join them. It's
Yeah.
just the truth.
Well, Matt's made a good comment here in the chat. AI is not the tool; humans are the tool. Use it. Um,
Yeah.
that's true. 100% correct, and you're right that they should get in, but in ahead of it. But I personally am going to make my comment now, and my comment is this: I hope that the AI replaces every goddamn last one of them, dude. I want them all gone. I would run because here's the thing. I'm not going to say that entertainment in any of its medium doesn't have value because it does, but it's the
Yes,
least valuable thing in society.
that's true.
Farmers, engineers, scientists, doctors, carpenters, artisans of all kinds. The list goes on for a very long time until you get to actor. It's pretty
Yes,
far down, right? It's
yes.
not important, but the pretentious shit coming out of these people constantly my entire life. Fuck off. You are not important. You're not.
That's right.
Your job has some value, sure, but you're the least value member. And we're so back assward in our modern world the way we look at things. These
Yep.
celebrities have so much money and so much fame and if you turn around and you show someone a farmer, so many people these days would turn their nose up. Oh, it's a farmer, disgusting farmer. The most
Mhm.
important human in your freaking community.
Yes, right.
That's the reality of the world. And I would love to see AI wipe the whole thing away and put
Wipe
it
the
back
slate
into,
clean.
yeah, wipe the slate clean, put it back in just some producers' hands, let them make their money and get
Yep.
back to possibly kind of looking at reality in a more serious way. Because many peoples of many generation would do exactly what I just said in regards to seeing the dirty farmer, right? But the young
Yep.
people today are outrageous. If you hear the way the young women are going on, it's like the vast majority of jobs are beneath them. It's
Yes.
beneath them. And it's like,
Beneath them.
baby, those are the people that make the world go round, man.
Yes. Someone has
See,
to flip the burgers.
well, see, honey, we had a simple solution for that. It was called "You stayed your ass at home,"
Yeah.
while the
Yep.
guys went out and did those jobs you didn't want to do. But you listened to a bunch of fat feminists who made money off your eventual misery
Yeah.
and
That's
went
right.
out and did something you didn't
There it is.
have to do
Yeah.
because you was told that you was going to be something that you were never going to be, which is equal to men. Men and women are not equal.
Oh, we're different.
Sorry.
Yeah, we have our
Yeah.
strengths and our things we're responsible for. But when I was young, you know how excited a girl would be to land herself a electrician.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. It's a
They
good
have,
job.
oh my,
Good
that's a good
stable
job.
job.
They would be so excited to get an electrician or a carpenter or something like that,
Well,
right? And
that I
these
think you're right
days,
though. That's what AI is going to do. AI
yeah,
is not going to replace all jobs. It's going to replace the jobs that have this self-importance because they're high what's the word I'm looking for? High face,
yeah,
meaning
the office worker, the
they
investor.
you're right. They have this air of superiority to them, right? A great example, you said actor. Obviously, I don't think it's going to replace actors, at least not yet. But it's the same idea, right? There's a
Yeah,
lot of clout that isn't really earned for anything other than because people accept it. A lot of jobs out there have this, where they're really just decent jobs. There's a great meme of some, I think it's supposed to be like a teacher or something, and she's walking with her kid, and she said that there's a garbage man cleaning up the street, and the kid's looking at him, and the woman pulls him away and says, "Oh, you don't want to be like him," something like that, not knowing that this garbage man's making like $80,000 a year. He's got full benefits, a pension. He's doing good. Uh,
yeah,
because there's, like you said, perception. We're right back to it. There's this
yes.
perception
Thank
that
you.
these white collar office jobs, whatever you want to call them, are better, are superior. If you have them, you're somehow smarter, or you're hard, whatever. You're a higher class, right? You're up a level on the rung.
which is
But it's just
nonsense.
not true. All of the people I know in my life personally who went from nothing to millionaires are laborers,
Yeah,
are
that's true.
craftsmen of
Well,
some
the
kind.
smartest people you'll
Everyone.
meet are farmers. Those
Yeah,
guys
they're
have to have,
brilliant.
you know how many skills they need to have to do that job?
Yep.
They're
Oh, and I'll
constantly
tell you
learning.
this
They do
right
all
now.
kinds of crazy
Anybody
things.
anybody who thinks farmers are poor, no, no. Farmers
No,
got money.
they're
They
busting
got
their
money.
ass. They know how to do all kind of things. But the funny thing is, the first job we're going to see go are the investors, the stock market
Yep.
people, and
Soon as the
it's
computer figures it out,
it
it's
already
over.
has. It already has.
Yep.
We're
It's
already
over.
seeing it because the computer will make investments way better than a human would.
Instantly too.
Right.
Boop, 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 boop. Thousands
Instantly.
of them. Boop, boop,
It's
boop,
going to
boop, boop, boop.
change the economic system.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
the first jobs you're going to see go, actually. And you might see secretaries and stuff, but only the only the you know kind of online secretaries. The
Yep.
in person that you can go up and say hi to and speak to, I think they'll.
Personable, smiling, charming,
Yeah,
those
but
type
the
of people.
physical
Yep.
location, which is
Yes.
becoming less and less used, right? But
Yep.
they'll keep their job. But you're going to see a lot of it, and it's going to get to these actors, and it's going to get there quick. It's going to get to computer designers, video game designers, comic book artists. This AI stuff, and of course we're well lubed for this.
Yep.
Our entire lives, and even my parents' lives, we have been told, warned about, and basically jaded to the oncoming AI domination, and it's coming. It's here. So
Yep. It's funny because remember back in the day when you had the certain Democratic operatives telling people, telling or not, I'm
the
sorry, blue
FBI,
collar workers, yeah, blue collar, yes, telling blue collar workers when their jobs, coal miners specifically, their jobs were being literally erased by the government,
learn
that
to
they need to go
code.
learn to code. Well, guess what? Some of them did.
Yeah.
Haha, have fun, because
Uh,
there's no more learn to code. Once the code can write itself, and it just about can, then what? Then what are you going to do? There'll be no mobility into the tech industry like that. You'll have to either be a high level AI engineer, or you'll just be a, I don't know, get the coffee basically,
right. Well,
because the computer's going to do it all. It's going to do it all.
it's gonna crush the economy. So I'm not
Yep.
sure how we're going to work on all that because America over the decades here has been turned into a service industry country, which that's the
Yep.
beginning of the end, of course.
Yes.
That was one of just the NAFTA thing. It's been going on longer
Yep.
than that. It goes back way back, but honestly, Bill Clinton and his NAFTA was the nail in the coffin. It was
Yep.
because
Oh, I know.
it's here we are decades later and it's just emptied manufacturing out of the country. Yeah, you live in literally the forge. Well, sorry, we call it the Rust Belt now. How sad
Yes.
is that, dude?
Yes. There's a reason for all these things.
The
Now, I live in
foundry.
the industry that was one of it. So originally, my family's business was only small appliance repair, right? So that's all they did: toasters, mixers, microwaves, little things like that. Didn't do the stoves, didn't do the washers and dryers. Only did small appliances. Things with small little electric motors in them, stuff
Sure.
like that.
Yeah.
Made good money doing it for
Sure.
years because you could, one, get parts, and it was actually worth it to just get it fixed than it was to buy a new one. And then NAFTA came
Yep.
and it wiped it out.
It
The
did.
entire industry gone in 10, 15 years, to the
But it,
point where we had to shift to start doing major
well,
appliances.
yeah.
But eventually, that largely got wiped out too. It can be hard in a lot of places to find somebody who will fix your appliances, and the reason is because the money's not there. By the time that you pay them to fix the thing, and they get the parts and everything else, which takes forever now, by the time all that's done, you could have just bought a new one for a couple extra $100,
Yeah.
and that's exactly how they
It's
want it.
NAFTA.
They want that.
Yeah,
Yep.
well, we had the production country, the manufacturing country going on before, the subsidized one. But NAFTA is really what put it in high demand. In Mexico, China, Indonesia, Vietnam, Bangladesh, et cetera, et cetera. These places are just basically the factories of the world, and because they're cheap. And
Yep.
and because it's cheap labor and everything is made as cheaply as possible, nothing has any quality to it anymore at all, because these corporations are so large that they're penny pinching on the amount of plastic down to the nth degree of
That's right.
micrograms, right? And you're getting the cheapest possible thing you can get, and it's made with cheap labor, and they have no intention for you at all to do any repair at all. Matter of fact, one of the big things we've been seeing pushing has been people saying the right to repair, right, with
Yep.
these expensive electronics, because companies like Apple and many of the other ones, they basically seal the product. You can't do any repair on it, right?
Right.
And that there's been a big push, and you know what's happening with that? They're losing,
Yep.
because corporations have the right to do what they want, and they have all the money and power anyway. So, sorry, little actors in your AI problem, you are the least of the problem.
You're
This
gonna go
is,
back to the bottom of the totem pole where you belong.
yeah,
You've been elevated for the last 100 years or so, thanks to Hollywood's reach.
yeah,
But now you are going to be replaced by the machines, and
yeah,
because of that, you going to lose the status that you know so hardly,
right,
or so with so much ferocity fought for. That's
yes,
gone now, and there's a reset happening. It's funny that this is happening in the labor market. It's also happening in the political sphere. We're seeing a return to historical normalcy. The great powers are reforming, as they've always been pretty
yeah,
much since
it is
forever,
happening, yeah,
and now we're seeing it in the labor market, where the jobs that are superfluous are being quickly replaced.
hmm,
um, this is probably for the best overall. A return to normalcy is a return to a more honest world, a
yeah,
more reciprocal world, and that's a good thing. So I don't I as much as I feel for the good artists out here, or the ones who are, they're trying to make a living off of it, that, some of them are going to lose that avenue. I would encourage all of them, if you have the discipline to learn the skill of art, whatever it is, writing, drawing, painting, whatever, you have the discipline to learn how to teach an AI to do it. So go do
yeah,
it. Learn the
yeah.
AI.
That's true. And we talk about the world, the old powers coming back. We're seeing a lot of that motivation. Did you guys see that new project that Egypt is doing? It's actually been working on it for a while, but it's in full motion now, and they're ahead of schedule, by the way. But
Mm.
they're, because of the whole trouble with Ethiopia being assholes, which, what's new? The Kush being assholes. Um, and Sudan would be making war with them if they weren't having a civil war collapse upon them, because, America decided it need to happen. Anyway,
Yep.
that's another conversation. But what is Egypt doing? Because they could easily go to war with Ethiopia as well, right?
Yep.
And don't even get me on the conversation of why the hell they call themselves Ethiopians. But anyway, um, what Egypt is doing is cutting a 200-kilometer long river
Interesting.
from the Mediterranean deep into Egypt. They're planning, water processing plants, and they're it's already underway, and they've done it quite a bit. They're, like I said, they're ahead of schedule. They're going to create farmlands for millions of workers, millions of farmers. Egypt ain't playing. Egypt's made a decision to kick themselves in the ass, and no, we're going to do it ourselves.
Yep.
And you're seeing a lot of countries do that. Turkey is starting to do it. Kazakhstan is
The
definitely do that.
original breadbasket of the
The
Mediterranean.
That's right, the old breadbasket.
Yep.
Kazakhstan is doing some amazing things. So Kazakhstan, I know you don't know anything about them, but that is the Tartarian steppes, by the way.
Yeah.
But those people over there, they're actually paying attention. They understand we're coming into a solar minimum, because that's what happens, and they know the historical situation of it. So what are they doing? They're building dams, reservoirs. They're managing their water to an incredible degree because they know it's going to become liquid gold in the future.
Yep.
So,
Chester, I
yeah.
know you can't believe this, but I can actually tie Kazakhstan to sumo.
Oh, yes, you can, Sumo. Yeah, you can. You can actually, you can. Uh, but but most people don't know anything about Kazakhstan. It's a very big country that, of course, is where Russia did all their rocket launching and stuff from as well. But
Yep. And
the
one of the current fast risers in the ranks is from Kazakhstan.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, the whole country's coming up. It's some beautiful things going over there. You know what I was thinking about? You guys know when I won't go into detail, but I picked up that property in Malta. I have a bit of
Here he goes.
well, no, I have an obsession. I must buy property in Sardinia.
Must.
I must. I just recently discovered Sardinia. I know its history, and I know the back and forth with France and Spain and Italy and all that kind of. I know the history, but I never looked at the place because I figured it was kind of probably like Sicily, which is brown and ugly. You know,
Hey.
hey, sorry, but it is pretty brown and ugly. But I never looked at it. I went and looked at it. Oh my God, dude, it's freaking paradise. Have you ever seen Sardinia?
No.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Yeah, unbelievable. And Corsica to the north, right? But yeah, I'm gonna have to go over and visit Sardinia. Anyway, let's get to our last story of the day.
After Indiana Jones craters at the box office, actress Haley Atwell says Mission Impossible is the most extraordinary adventure franchise you've ever seen.
True.
I don't know
This
about the
this one
most,
this is for Grimlock,
but
by
it's
the way.
pretty good.
This is for Grimlock.
Yeah, his favorite.
Yeah,
His
Still
favorite.
not watching it,
So
so
it's funny to me because I know that this is coming out or it already is out or whatever.
it's coming.
And the wife and I decided to watch through them. Do a little session of them all, just so we're kind of caught up and so we can watch. Go see the new one. And we were on the second one, but she took an edible and went to sleep, so we didn't finish it.
Oh,
And but we'll finish it eventually. Anyway, it's interesting to me that that statement. This franchise is almost 30 years old. First one came out in 1996.
yeah.
1996, and this crazy whatever race he is, white man, Jew man, whatever Tom Cruise is, this crazy bastard still does his own stunts,
Oh yeah.
and he pulls off some amazing, amazing feats, like the opening sequence of the second one, where he's climbing the mountain and he's jumping around on that mountain, and he's actually doing it free rope, no rope. It's just craziness, man. But anyway, this sentence here, I don't know if I'd agree the most extraordinary, but it's got cred. It's been around a long time. They make good money, and they're most of them are decent at least they're decent. I don't think any of them are terrible. I know a lot of people don't like the third one. I don't think any of them are terrible, but they're action movies. They're supposed to be over the top, which is funny because the first one, aside from a few scenes here or there, is very grounded comparatively. Besides, like right at the end with the exploding helicopter in the train tunnel situation, but most of the rest of it is fairly grounded. I find that very interesting. How very similarly to Fast and Furious, it grew into this much more over the top action adventure series. When the first one is very much, very heavily a spy thriller, and with adventure sequences in or action sequences in it. Um, that's just interesting to me. But I look forward to hopefully Tom Cruise does it 2 years in a row. He comes out here and he shows Hollywood. He doesn't tell Hollywood because Tom hasn't talked a bit of shit that I've heard. He just shows them. He
No.
shows them how you do
How
this.
you make money. And we know he's
Yes.
based because that whole thing where the company wanted to the studio wanted to take the Taiwanese flag off the jacket, and he's like, nope, you ain't doing that.
No, not doing it. Not doing that. Yep.
Yeah.
Screw China. They don't like
Now,
it.
as far as his racial makeup, his name is Mathother, as his real name, right?
Yes, it did. Just
And just for the etymology on that, that is a Saxony name, a Saxon name, but it's more closely connected to the Norman invasions of France, and of course the early Anglo-Saxon invasions. So I would say it's probably coming from the Norman French now. So I would say he's Saxon Norman ancestry.
interesting.
So
Yeah, I know he's Grimlock's most hated movie star, or one of them.
mhm.
Uh, and that's fine. But I like watching um a classic style of movie star like Tom Cruise. I mean, he's been around forever for a reason.
Dude, he learned to fly
Just
airplanes and helicopters so you could see him doing it. I mean, come on.
yes,
Come on.
just so
Oh,
he can. I like watching him rub it in Hollywood's face because I'm telling you, he's doing that. I think he's doing that. I don't think he's on board at all with this nonsense Hollywood's been on about for the last decade or so. I just don't. I haven't seen him make a single statement regarding it, like in favor. And to me, that's enough to make me think that he's against it because everybody else has, Anthony Mackied it up and
Yeah.
swallowed the pill and done what they're told. Tom doesn't have to do that for one. He's got more money than he could ever need. And for two, he has proven that he's still a draw. Now, some of his movies bombed, I guess, but that happens to everybody. But yeah, his last big movie, obviously Maverick, was maybe the best
May
movie of that year. It's up there.
might
Made
be
a
his
ton
best
of
movie
money.
ever. Yeah.
Yeah, probably is his best movie. And I like the Mission Impossible movies. I
Yeah,
I
they're fun.
don't really know. I don't know anybody who dislikes them that's watched them.
Well,
They're not.
Tom makes money, dude.
Oh, Tom ain't broke. He ain't hurting.
I'm talking
He
about
is not
for
going hungry.
others. For others, he makes
Yeah, no,
movies.
he's a draw. Tom's still a draw. At 60, he's still out here drawing in action movies. It's impressive. He has a one of the greatest careers in Hollywood history. One of
Yeah, let's see here. When's the last time he didn't make money? American Made actually was popular. I don't know if it made
the
money.
Mummy,
The
the
Mummy,
Mummy
but
movie.
it
Yeah.
wasn't that bad. His Jack Reacher things were fun. I don't know if they made money. Edge of Tomorrow was a good movie. I liked
Edge of Tomorrow is
Oblivion.
awesome. Oblivion is one of the best sci-fi movies of the last
Yeah.
20 years, maybe the best.
This Night and Day, maybe.
Yeah.
Valkyrie was interesting. I mean,
Valkyrie was awesome.
I'm not
Gold
seeing
film.
any craters here though.
And Tropic Thunder. I'm gonna say Tropic Thunder was his best role as
Yeah,
Les
it probably
Grossman.
was. Yeah,
He's so
his
good.
dancing in it was so cool, dude. Uh, I don't see any craters here though.
No, no. Minority Report is an absolute classic. Uh,
Yeah,
Jerry
Jerry
Maguire
Maguire
is
was
one of the
huge
most
hit.
quoted movies of all
Interview with
time.
Vampire,
Look at
sure.
96 for him
Firm.
though, man. Mission Impossible and Jerry Maguire.
Yeah,
Sheesh.
big. Far and Away is actually a good movie with his ex-wife. Days of Thunder, fun movie.
Few Good
Yeah,
Men's awesome.
I'm sitting here and I don't see any. I haven't found a crater yet. Taps was a good movie, dude. I don't know. I never seen this one, but yeah, no, his career is storied.
It's obscene how
Yeah,
how successful he's been.
yeah, I don't see any
Uh,
craters here at all, dude.
my point is, it's just nice to watch a movie star show these idiots that they're all wrong, that everything they talk about is ridiculous and nonsensical. Nobody cares but them, and they need to get out of their own bubbles and stop being limited mindset retards, and they can make money again. Just go back to making movies. The reason why Maverick was so good is because it was just a movie. That's
Yeah,
it. That's all we asked for. We
great
didn't
fun
ask
little
for some
movie.
masterpiece. We didn't ask for some political statement. It's just a movie, and it treats its main character with the dignity that a main character of a movie deserves.
I'm going to.
That's all it did.
It did. I'm going to stop irking Grimlock here. I'm going to help him out.
that don't bother me.
I'm going to help you out, dude.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to show you some love. Here you go. There you go. There you go, brother.
Well, Those eyes, man. Oof.
She's stunning,
That,
dude.
just my goodness.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's. I'm just glad that Chester, I was proven correct by history when I said 4 years ago that 2022 to 2024 is when that stuff's going to all die off, and that's exactly what's happened. I mean, I don't even know how you could argue that if you're being honest that I wasn't right. Like I nailed it. I even nailed
You
the
did.
date.
You did. But I wasn't paying attention because she's talking to me, dude. Looking right at me. I still say
No,
though. I still say
beautiful
this one
eyes.
right here. The little kitty in the back. Yeah, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
She knows what
baby.
she's about.
Mm-hmm.
She knows what she's about.
Hell
Mhm.
yeah.
Just so we're clear, these three women right here, beautiful women. I have no idea. Maybe they are models from that region. I have no idea. But
Well, maybe.
they are more beautiful than Zendaya.
Yeah, well, she's
That's
a
not
kind of a
that's not a
scrawny
hard one to
thing.
pass.
She's not
But the
much of a
problem is they
female.
push her out there like she's some great beauty queen, and she's a picture of beauty and a
Well, she's
standard
not.
of beauty.
She's not ugly.
Zendaya's built like an old broom.
Yeah,
She's
no,
not
she's
ugly, but she's
scrawny.
not this. Look
No,
at
she's
these
not
three
anywhere
women.
near this. Yeah, she's especially not that
No.
right there. But no, dude, I went and looked at the pictures, and they're all kind of like this.
Yeah,
They're
they're
just
all
pretty
pretty.
ladies everywhere, dude. Oh, God, no. Okay, here we go. I like the one with the furry breasts. She's looking right at me too. She's got that great.
Yep.
I love that. That fur hood really works, man.
You like the fur? Chester has outed himself as a furry.
I guess.
Just so we're
I
all clear.
guess. I guess. Although Grimlock's choice isn't bad. It's not bad. That girl's got a body on her too.
Fine, I'll take the one in the middle.
Oh shucks.
I'll make that
Shucks.
sacrifice,
No one
guys.
no one chose the Slav, by the way. I love the fact that the
Poor
poor
thing.
Slav got thrown out to the side there. Even
She
though
can come too.
she'd
Listen,
come
I'm not
too.
greedy.
That's true.
There's more than enough of me to love, Chester. She can come too. It's
Yeah, that's
fine.
true. That's true. But I mean, seriously, you go look, just type in Tartarian women of Russia, right? Tartarian women, they're stunners, dude. And to be honest, of course, I didn't show it, but the men are handsome too. I mean, look at this little
He's
dude in the back,
handsome man
cute
back
little
there. He's got a
kid. Look at
nice.
this little kid. He's a good looking boy.
Look at him.
Yeah, even old
What's going on
mom
with
here,
it?
strict old mom, she looks good. These ladies are a
Yeah,
bit more chunky, but it's all right. These
older.
are Slavs, though. These are Slavs. They're not Tartarians. That is just ridiculous. Here's a more normal picture. These are normal ladies, but they're still very pretty. Look at this young man, a good-looking guy, a redheaded girl. Look at the people in the back. They're an attractive people.
I
They
need to know
are.
what this food is.
It's some kind of peel off, maybe.
Of course it is. uh,
Well, in that area of the world, from the Caspian all the way up into Tartaria here, they like their pilaf. They don't have a
yeah,
meal without it.
that's true.
That's for sure. Here we got another pilaf going on here, and some kind of baked pie of some kind. Maybe it's beef or lamb, probably lamb or goat. But yeah, 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 yeah. Now, when those Tartarians came in, and I'm not going to go through the whole history again, but when they did start coming in and dropping in, they did get down and mix with some of the peoples in those lands, right? A matter of fact, if you go read the old stories, they talk about the coming of the black-headed people, right?
Hmm.
Now, who are they talking about? Are they talking about Arabs? They're certainly not talking about black people because they had another word for them. Are they talking about Persians? Are they, because they're all, the Persians especially are coming out of these migrations. Are they talking about them? I mean, were they more black-headed? Because, maybe when the Germans, by the way, I do love the irony of it. The German migrations into Europe, or the Schwabians, excuse me, the Schwabian migrations into Europe. You know who their leader was? You know what his name was?
What?
I don't.
Odin.
Oh,
Uh,
I did know that actually.
Yeah,
Now that you say it.
yeah.
Well, wasn't it like some form of Woden or something,
Yeah,
but
it's
is
Woden.
Odin.
It's Woden, but I
Yeah,
mean, basically Odin. And that's probably where, because he was an amazing leader that literally took an entire population, moved them into a new area, conquered it, and made it their
yeah.
own. So that's probably why we remember him. Probably, more than likely. And what do we remember Odin as? Take all the mysticism, the Buddhism aspect of the Scandinavian religion, throw the Aryan religion, put that aside. What is
Hmm.
Odin? He's a wise, intelligent war leader,
Yeah.
right? That's who Odin is. He's not like his brash son, and it's very similar to Chinggis Khan, right? The the Turkish leader there, right? He was considered to be very wise and intelligent war leader. His son Tamerlane was a frickin' terror, right?
Yeah.
It's very similar stories, but anyway, so we still don't really know who the black-headed ones were. Where was it talking about these people? Maybe. Uh,
Could
but
be.
but nevertheless, their history is long, and I do love conspiracy theories. You guys know I do. But a lot of times, if you just take your conspiracy theory and just kind of think about it for a minute, do a actual little bit of research, it becomes more benign.
Yeah.
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 There's very few that we can prove that actually happened that were fantastical, I guess would be a good word for
There's a
it.
few.
Uh,
There are a few.
but
Yeah.
most of them are very simple. Humans are not as complicated as humans think we are.
No.
We're very simple apes who like power and security and will do really weird shit to get it. Uh, and that's most of conspiracy theories, quote unquote. That's pretty much all you're dealing with. You're dealing with people trying to get something. They have a desire for it, so they go after it, and they go after it in various nefarious, sometimes not even nefarious, just odd ways. Um, and that's what most of them are. And most of them, I wouldn't even say. A lot of people say, "Well, if you look into them, most of them aren't true." Not that they're not true.
Yeah, they have some
It's
true. Yeah.
there's truth in them, and then they've been exaggerated to
Yeah.
some degree,
Well,
and that's really all it is.
the Tartarian people were very successful, incredible engineers and builders. But
Yep.
look what's happened to them. They've had the Golden Horde were walking over their grounds for quite a while. They had the Viking assaults that went on forever and ever and ever. And keep in mind that ended up, that little place in southern Italy we call Naples. You do realize that is a Scandinavian outpost, right? A lot of people
Yep.
don't seem to get that. They think it's Italian. No, no, it's Scandinavian. I'm sure they all speak Italian now, but that's not where they're from. The Vikings went down there and took that shit, as they did many things. Then they went to the Templar. Not I'm not talking. I'm talking about the German, Catholic forces, right? They went through
Mm,
all that nonsense. That just if you look at it, they've been oppressed and warred upon for many centuries. So if you kind of wonder what happened to Tartaria, well, that's what happened to Tartaria. It's not a big mystery. It's not a, the only question is how far did the Byzantine Empire actually reach? How far did they
right.
get? And I think I wouldn't be surprised if they actually did make it to the Americas, right? It wouldn't shock me at all, especially because we know the Native American migrations now. We know the truth through genetic information. And of course, we could have just asked the Indians because their stories say this anyway. They only came in
Yep.
about 1,500 years ago. It's not
Sure.
30,000 years ago. It's 1,500 years ago, and their stories
Yeah.
corroborate that. And they made war with the people that were already there. But when we look at all these conspiracy theories and these things that are going around, they're not. It's not that hard, especially if you understand that the Byzantine Empire was the first actual Greek empire. Yeah, I'll say it
Right.
again. It was the first actual Greek empire. Keep in mind, the Grecians left the Hellenic League long before that, and they're the ones that basically end up making the Romans what they became. But the Hellenes, they never had a country. That was a trade union.
Correct.
Never had a country. The first country they had was the Byzantine Empire, and people don't seem
Yep.
to understand that. either Constantinople. That was a Greek empire.
That's
I
right.
mean, like simple little things. So, like for instance, we're talking about Russia, the Russian languages, right? There are many of them. Like I said, the most spoken language in Russia is Tartarian or Tartar, right? But
Yep.
they didn't have a unified alphabet. You know who gave them a unified alphabet? Justinian,
Um,
the
hmm.
the famous Byzantine Empire emperor. And you know why it looks weird to you? But if you actually study Greek in school, like an proper American should have,
Yep.
you'd be able to read Russian easy because it's Greek.
Right. It's just a derivative of Greek.
It's just Greek, yeah, given to him by Justinian. But I mean, on and on and on and on and on and on. Those Byzantines did a lot of things. Of course, that's what brought you Genghis Khan. Khan is a Turkish or Turkic
What?
word. It's not a
Yeah.
Mongolian word. Um,
God!
right.
Well,
But
screamed
anyway,
so loud you could hear it from the center of the planet in space.
I
The
know,
man could scream.
I
That
know.
was a hell of a
It
yell.
was a yell. It was. It's one of that's one of the best sci-fi action movies of all time, too, dude.
And he was faking it. Holy,
I
that's
know.
impressive.
It was he just kicked his ass, dude. But
Oh, I love Wrath of Khan.
it's a
That
good
that is
movie.
the best Star Trek movie. That one right there. It's so good.
Yeah.
So good.
I'm torn though. I'm torn because that this is just illegal. So we won't even talk about that. That's
That's your
illegal.
style there, though, right
That's
there.
that countries go to war for that shit right there. Okay.
They have.
They
That's true.
have, my God. But I don't know where is it here? So I got three. I got this one, I got this one, and I get this one. I don't know. I don't know. That's a hottie right there, dude. Oh God.
This greedy whore.
I'm picking.
Yeah.
I don't know, dude. This girl's
Well,
got the look on her face is freaking awesome, dude.
just do like your ancestors and have more than one.
That's
Problem
true.
solved.
That is true. We should get back to polygamy. Come at me,
I like it.
YouTube.
I love it. And in fact, I do want some more of it.
Yeah. Well,
Yep.
this is a serious question. I know I joke around a lot, but why do the Christians have some angst against polygamy? I don't
I can tell you
understand it.
exactly what.
Well, the Bible's very clear.
Yep.
It's very clear. The only person that's not allowed to have multiple wives is a preacher, a priest.
Correct.
Everyone
That's
else,
accurate.
the Bible gives you a full set of laws, the Quran and the Torah and all the stuff, the Hadiths, they give you a full set of laws of how you do it and how it's very laid out. Why would I thought they were people of the book? I don't. I'm confused.
Well, I'll tell you why. And a lot of it is, I mean, the Catholics do it too, obviously. They're really weird with their priests not allowed to be married, which is not biblical at
The
all.
opposite.
Uh,
Yeah.
the exact opposite of what the Bible says. Anyway, it's because Jesus, I can't remember where it is. I think it's in Mark. He says that he doesn't say it's a commandment, but he kind of says that this is the ideal situation is a man and a woman for one lifetime. And that is what that's what I was always raised as is that is what Jesus teaches, so that's why it's like that even though throughout the rest of the Bible it's very obvious that it's
Yeah, but
fine and in fact encouraged.
Mark's not a real dude.
Chester, but to the Christians he is. They like those gospels. They're big fans.
All right, fine.
Um, it's kind
Yeah,
of
but
like
the
the
Bible's very
Hadiths.
clear though.
Yes, it is. And I've had these debates for years with devout Christians in churches. That it's the same thing with how they go to church on Sunday when they should not. They should
No,
go to
it's
church on Saturday.
Saturday. Yeah, of course.
Yes, but they all do it, and they all just yeah, it's fine. They don't even question it. I'm like, all right, fine. Whatever makes you happy, guys. That's all I'm about. That's what
It's
I'm about.
true.
You're not hurting anybody.
It's true.
You're being virtuous, helping people, and you're happy. Cool, do it.
Yeah.
Rock out.
I
Yeah,
yeah, I don't
that's why.
understand.
That's the
Yeah.
reason. Now it's another one of those things where it's one of the reasons why I don't call myself a Christian is because most Christians have absolutely no idea what they actually believe. They don't. They just say things, right? But they don't actually know what the Bible or scripture says. And when you show it to them, they will get cognitive dissonance and just shut it down. They can't have that conversation. Now, the church I grew up in, that wasn't allowed. The pastor of that church, if he had many flaws, he had a bad temper, it was one of them. But when it came to questioning their narratives or the book or whatever, he was very open about it. It was one of the things I respected about him. He would always tell you to read it yourself, come to your own conclusions. But then he would say,
True.
obviously, this is what
But
he believes.
but
Yes.
I have a problem.
Oh,
The word Sabbath is a
yeah.
Hebrew word. Would you
Right.
like to guess what it means?
Tell me.
Saturday.
Correct.
It also means, especially in the Greek as well, the day of rest. But it literally means Saturday.
Yeah.
Saturday.
And one of the 10 commandments, I can't remember the exact number and placement, but one of them is to remember Saturday, they call it the Sabbath, and keep it holy.
Yeah.
Oops. Oops a doodle, guys.
Yeah,
It's
it's a bit weird.
it's very strange to me. I've asked for years when I was going to church, why do we go to church on Sunday? And everybody would say, well, because Jesus rose, Resurrection Day was a Sunday.
Mhm.
Okay, what's that got to do with church? Like, what's that got to do with every week? I could see doing that on Easter, right? You're celebrating Easter, fine. But why are we doing it every week? That doesn't make sense.
It's
That's not a logical reason.
It's the fourth commandment, by the way.
Yes, that's correct.
It is interesting how the 10 commandments, of course, these are basically a honed down version of the 42 laws of Mott.
Yeah.
But whatever, because keep in mind, Egyptians and Jews are the same thing. But anyway, it's kind of interesting because in our 10 commandments, our Bill of Rights, right,
Yep.
in America, number one is freedom of speech and the
Yes.
protection of a religion.
Yes.
It's a good
And
it's
the
a good
press.
first one, and well, of course, they're included.
And really, it just means freedom of thought. That's all.
Freedom
It
of
means.
thought.
You're
That's what
allowed to
it means.
think what you want.
That's right.
Yeah.
Second one, freedom to protect yourself, which shall not be infringed,
That's right.
etc. But it's a good set of 10. It's a good set of 10, or
Not
more
bad.
now. It's more now.
They
But
did a pretty good job, I
yeah,
think.
they did a good job, I think, and the order they put them in seemed to be prevalent. And humans like
Yeah.
top 10 lists. Just go watch,
Oh my
Dave.
God.
Yeah.
Go watch YouTube.
We
Holy
love
they're
top
everywhere.
tens. It's a thing. So it's not strange that the one of the oldest top 10 lists we have is from the Hebrews, and they are the entertainers after all.
That's true.
And she's super cute, but I gotta go. Yeah, no, I'll go
Just
this one.
remember that
Okay,
Moses broke the first set. He got mad at them
he
because they were
did.
out here doing
He did.
nonsense. He
He
said, "That's
did.
enough." He
Yeah,
broke the first
he
set.
had the 15, and then it came down 10.
Yep.
But
Yep.
anyway, let's look at the order they put them in from top to bottom, right? Or
Sure.
maybe we should, we'll look. Let's see what their priorities were. Number one, most important, drum roll. You shall have no other gods before me.
That's right.
That's an interesting first commandment, don't you think?
It is.
A little
He's
bit
a jealous God.
insecure.
Old
Yeah,
Yahweh.
a little bit.
Yep.
And Yahoo or Yaha or Yahweh,
Yep.
as you would say.
Yep.
You do realize he was the Lord of the mountain.
That's correct.
Yeah.
He was
Um,
a mountain god.
he was one of the many mountain gods. Yeah. Next, this is a good one, Grimlock. You should pay attention to this one because I know how you are. Right.
Uh-oh.
Second one. You shall have no idols. How dare you?
That's right. No graven images.
Tom
None of them.
Cruise worshiper over here.
Which, by the way, just spoilers, the Catholics, they took that one out. They changed that one because
Well-
they wanted to sell statues, you see. They wanted to sell their little icons that they've got. So they just ignore that one. That one's not.
Well, let's
That's
look
not
at
in the Catholic one.
That's true. Well, let's look at the third one. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. So
That's right.
the first three laws are all about God. Talk about
Yes.
an freaking ego, dude. All right.
A
I
bit,
guess
yeah,
if you're
a bit.
God, you kind of have a right to
You're
it,
allowed if you're
I
God. Yeah, you've
suppose.
got a right. The
But
creator of all things. Yeah, it's a pretty big deal. It's a pretty
arguably
big
the
deal.
rest of them are actually just about human life, right? Keep the
Yes.
Sabbath day holy. Yeah, we can apply that to him. So we'll say the top 4 are all about him. So the other 6 are about us. Honor your father and mother. Makes sense.
It's
Uh,
interesting. The very first interpersonal one is honor your father and
right.
ancestor
Yeah,
worship. That's what it is.
right.
They can pretend it isn't, but that's
Mhm.
what it is.
Number 5, Grimlock. You shall not murder unless I tell you to murder.
Yes, thou shalt not murder would be the right translation. That's what I'm looking
Well, I
for.
was
Thou shalt not murder.
transliterating, you see.
Yeah, I know you were. Yeah, he
Uh,
does. Fair enough to him. He does tell you when you're allowed to do the
he
murder.
does.
He says
He
there's
does.
times for the murder.
Yeah. You shall not commit adultery.
Don't do it.
Which
Just
means,
not do it.
which really, if you look at the old translation, actually, this isn't translated correct. What it actually is telling you
Right.
is, do not sleep with another man's wife.
Correct.
It's not saying that you can't have all the wives. We already talked about polygamy is completely valid in all the religions, but it's saying don't mess with another man's woman is what it really translates as, and it makes sense.
Water your own garden.
That's right.
Water
Water your
your own
own
garden.
damn garden. That's right. You shall not steal. That one's pretty straightforward, though.
That's pretty straight.
It's
Yeah,
straight.
that's boom,
There's
boom. 1,
yeah,
2. Don't do it.
the murder and
Leave
the
other
steal
people's stuff
thing. The
alone.
murder one not so clear because he has opinions. But the steal
Yeah,
thing, well, no,
don't
because
do it.
he says to
Don't
steal
do it.
their things too. So unless he
Well, he
tells
does.
you, here's another one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's true.
it's true.
There's
He
war. There's that war
insinuates.
thing.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, that's
fine.
true.
War.
Number 8 was that one. Number 9, you shall not bear false witness unto your
Yep.
neighbor. No lying and fraud. No fraud. Bad, bad. Boy, there's a lot
Do
of
not tell a
politicians in
lie
trouble, I
to
think.
your neighbor. Now,
Yeah,
can you lie about your neighbor? Because it's not very clear. It
that's
just says
true.
don't bear it to your neighbor. So what if it's to somebody else?
Well, it says against your neighbor, against your neighbor.
That's true. That's true.
But the last one I think is the most interesting one, though. Ye shall not covet.
That's right.
Grimlock,
Covet
you're
your
in
neighbor's
trouble.
wife.
You're in trouble, Grimlock.
No
I
coveting.
think you are covetous.
Yeah, me and half the world.
It's true. Well, more than half. I'd say the entire world covets
Yeah,
on
we
a
all
daily
covet something.
basis. We all
That's
want.
true.
I know. I want that one right there with the furry bra. I'm coveting the shit out of that.
I would say
That
there's
is a
various.
smoking hot chick, dude.
She ain't bad. I would say the Ten Commandments. There is a lot of room for interpretation because literally, as we said, "Thou shalt not kill" doesn't even mean that. It means don't murder, don't kill it
No,
without
it means
righteousness.
not to murder without,
Um,
not to kill without reason. Yeah.
yes. So the first one, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me." That one's that's the most interesting one because one, it admits from God himself that there are other gods. They exist.
Yeah,
Deities other
that
than
is
him exists.
interesting.
And two, it's also a not even just a actual religious text, it's also a mental one. It's telling you that you can only have one God at the top. You can only have one person, one being, one idea, concept, whatever, that is your God as a person. Your mind is that simple. You cannot have anything before God because if you do, you will basically not have God, is what he's implying here. And Jesus says something very similar later on where he says, "You cannot serve two masters, you cannot serve God and mammon." Um, and it's the same exact concept. You have to pick your God and serve your God. You don't
Yeah.
get to just jump around and pretend like it doesn't matter. No, no, no. You have one. Everybody has one.
Yeah.
Every human living being with thought in their brain has one, even if they think they don't. Now, it might not be something like in a traditional sense, like a Zeus type god or whatever, but you have something that you're willing to sacrifice everything for. It might be yourself,
Something greater than
could
you.
be,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
Sure.
it's for many people have that, and I think that is what it means more so than anything else. Um,
Well,
because I like the idea of God not necessarily just being Jehovah or Yahweh or Elohim or one of his many various names he has in the Old Testament, especially. I like the idea of when Jesus says that he is the way, the truth, and the life. Um, I like the idea of God being the truth, of just being the concept of truth itself.
Yeah, that's a good
And
idea.
yeah, I think so if you put it in that context, you shall have no other gods before me. Put the truth first.
So
Put the
Superman,
truth first.
I got it.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yep.
Well, the interesting thing, what I just read with the Ten Commandments,
Yep.
is actually of course, the Latinized, or King James version of it, right? But the
Hmm.
original Aserat Hadibrot, which is the 10 statements, the actual Hebrew, right?
Yep.
It doesn't read the way you think it does, and you probably can. Let me give me some examples, and you probably could see why they changed it, right? Like for instance, the first I won't read it in Hebrew. I'll put it in English. But the first one: I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. That's the
Yep.
first statement. Now, look how they translated that, right? They translated in that to "You shall have no other gods before me." Isn't that
Yep.
interesting? Because the original thing, the actual Hebrew is "I am your Lord and God. I brought you
Which
out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage." It doesn't say anything at all about "you shan't have any other gods." It's just
Yep.
stating that I am your God.
I am the one.
Yes.
And it's funny because I use the word funny wrong, but it's interesting because God, when he identifies himself to mortals, he always says I am. He just is. He doesn't necessarily give a name or any of this. That stuff
Well,
comes usually from
it's kind of a
angels.
Hebrew thing, but
I
but
thought
yes.
he always said, "Acknowledge me."
Pretty much. That's basically what he's doing. He says I am, because when Moses, is falling on his face before the burning bush, terrified, and he doesn't want to go do it, and he says, "Well, who should I say sent me?" And he says, "I tell him I am sent
Yeah.
you." And that just basically he's saying he's declaring supremacy. He exists.
Yes.
Everything else exists
But
because of him.
the translation is interesting. Look at the
Yep.
second one. I think is even more telling. Hold on. No, okay. So you shall have you shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself a graven image, nor any manner of likeness of anything that is in heaven above, that is in the
Yep.
earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Ye shall not bow down to them, nor serve them, for I am the Lord your God,
Yep.
am jealous, a jealous
Yep.
God. No, excuse me, and a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of your fathers upon the children of the third and fourth generations of them that hate me, and showing mercy upon the thousandth generation of them that love me and keep my commandments. Wow, what a statement. And that is nothing close to what the Christians today read. It is not even
No.
slightly close. It's
See, that's
radically different. And
it's
this is
funny
where,
because that's what I grew up with. Was that version what you just read?
well,
Was
but
that the
because
jealous God
then
version?
your religion is an iconoclastic one, right? And a
Yeah.
lot of Protestants are, meaning no imagery,
Yep.
right? Because
Oh
this
yeah.
statement
None.
says nothing, nothing at all, no crosses, no pictures, no nothing at all,
Yep.
right?
There was a big debate in my church whether they should even let them wear crucifixes. There was a big debate for a
Yeah,
long time whether that was an idol, graven image. Most of them fell on the side of that it's fine because it's not technically an idol because it's just a cross that represents something. Blah 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 blah. But
yeah, but the
it
Protestants
is a
kind of,
debate.
it is,
It
it's
is a
the,
it is a it is a debate.
well, the Byzantines are the ones that kind of returned to iconoclasty, and they're also the ones that burned and destroyed all the beautiful art. So
Yeah,
here or there.
bastards.
The third one, though, where is talk about don't take the Lord's name in vain. It's actually what it's actually saying is you shall not assume God's opinion.
That's right.
Is what it really means, and we see preachers do that every day. Um,
Yes.
number four,
Well, it's
this.
why it's why when you say, God damn something, that's wrong. You don't have the authority to
No,
command
only
God's
he does.
damnation.
That's right. The fourth one is the last one I'll do because the other ones are human stuff and they're very straightforward, really. But the
Yeah.
fourth one is very interesting. Remember, let me see. Let me make sure I translate this. Okay. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath unto the Lord your God. On it
Yep.
you shall not do any manner of work, you, your son, your daughter, your manservant, slave, your maidservant, slave, your cattle, and your stranger that is within your gates. For it is the sixth day that the Lord made heaven and earth, the seas, and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Wherever the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. So that's a little more clear.
Yes.
A little bit.
Sit on your butt.
Do
Quit
nothing.
working.
Literally do nothing.
Nothing.
And
Prepare for that day the day before. Do nothing.
right. And it's interesting the takes we get on this because some people literally will not work. They shut down businesses and stuff. Other
Yep.
people will sit and worship all day, but you'll get other Christians will argue saying, "Well, but that's working though."
Yeah.
So technically, it doesn't say anything at all about you going to church. And
Correct.
maybe here's just a theory into the cogs. Maybe that's why the Protestants celebrate on Sunday.
Could be. I would say yes, but then you go around Protestant America and they shut everything down on Sunday. So if that's why, they're doing it wrong anyway.
Yeah, well, clearly they're confused. Yeah.
Yes, that's what I'm
Um,
saying. Like,
yeah, clearly. But it's
can
just
we go back to that first one for a second because it's interesting, right? How
she
I
is a
said,
hottie. She is a hottie. You're right. I'll
no,
go back
not
to it.
that one.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
That first verse there. I said that the first verse, even in the modern version of it, admits to other deities or things like deities, right?
Mhm.
The way it's laid out.
Yeah.
When you
Yes.
read the full version of it, it admits to a whole lot more. Because God is saying things like, "You shall have no other gods before me," and then you get to that third verse where or is it third verse, second verse, whatever, that talks about the graven images. Second verse,
Mhm.
he says you're not supposed to make graven images of anything in the earth. Wait, what's that mean? Or under the sea? Wait a minute. What are we saying? What, Lord? What are you saying's out there that's
Mhm.
so powerful that we would want to worship it?
The giant
What is
squid.
in the world?
Mhm. Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
crazy to me that Christians overlook these things. The Bible is replete with what we would call mysticism and mythology today, but then they go about worshiping it as if it's all 100% real. But then they just ignore all of the times the Old Testament especially talks about utterly fantastical things that exist in this world, and they just ignore it like it doesn't even exist. There's other parts of the Bible that talk about leviathans and behemoths and all sorts of creatures of great size and power that we don't know necessarily what they're talking about. Obviously, the book of Revelation talks about the great beast in the sea. It'll come up out of the sea and dominate the world. What are we talking about here? Like most modern Christians, they don't talk about this stuff. You would blow them away if you showed them that kind of stuff. They'd have no. They'd be what? What? They wouldn't even know how to process it because the churches, especially in America, have become so corrupted with this feel good doctrine, this stuff that just basically God is just a Santa Claus effectively, and as long as you're a good boy, he'll do good things for you. Um, None of that's biblical, and this idea that there's no, it's always been weird to me, the churches, how anti-spiritualists they are, how
Mhm.
anti, fantasticalism they are when it comes to like creatures and things. When the Bible especially talks about them at length, talks about spirits at length. Jesus himself talks about spirits at length. Talks about the Old Testament talks about all sorts of creatures and critters up even in heaven, the host of heaven as it's called, these anthropomorphic creatures that are up there.
Mhm.
uh, what are those? Christianity doesn't talk about them.
Mhm.
It just leaves it alone. It's very weird how selectively um, focused and emphasized so much of the biblical lore is. It's strange to me. It's almost, Chester, like you were saying, we talk about perception. It's almost like it's intentional. They don't want to focus on these things because these things are, I don't know, scary, I guess. It's terrifying. What's God talking about that's in the sea
Well,
that's so powerful we would worship it? What's he talking about?
Giant squid, I'm telling you.
giant squid. Yeah. But no, there are a lot of really interesting those kind of conversations, of course. But one of the interesting things that I thought was really interesting, if you look at it here, and you're talking about the first one, right?
Yep.
Hotziti hach asher al orhem kai Adonai nohik Ivek di mimi bet mitzrayim mayet rez. Right now, if I were
Mm,
to translate that very straightly, very cleanly, instead of using some transliteration, he's it simply says, "Brought you out who? Your God, Adonai. I am from the house of bondage from the land of Egypt." This Adonai, you see a lot in Hebrew.
yep.
People don't talk about that, and of course, it's referencing Father, right? Uh, but
Yes.
um, it is when you go. I suggest you guys go read the old Hebrew. You can find translations of it.
Absolutely.
You
You
don't
can
have
find
to read it.
concordance Bibles
Yeah.
that have it right next to each. So you read it in English in one page, and right next to it is the exact
Right.
Hebrew text
Because
right next to it.
one of the problems with Hebrew, like other languages, it's very hard for you to find a Romanized version of it, or
Yeah.
meaning in the Roman alphabet. It's very hard. It's all written in the Hebrew, right? And that's a pain in the ass for you, I am sure. Uh, but you can find direct English translations that are very accurate. But even like I just translated number one there, right?
Mm,
And if you look at it's brought you out, your God Adonai. I am. So I am Adonai, the God who brought you out from the house of bondage in the land of Egypt is what it means. And it
yep.
doesn't say anything about any of that stuff. But anyway, that would be a fun conversation. But I'm already late, so
Yeah, Chester.
yeah,
It's just fascinating to me how much of especially American Christianity has been sanitized.
yeah.
And I don't really understand why the Protestants, because the Protestant church I grew up in was the all the pastors were very big on being studious. The pastor, his favorite verse, the head pastor of my church, was study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needed not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. The very first word in that is study.
Yeah.
Study it. Get in there. He was very big on it. He never backed away from it. He never shied away from debate or conversation on it. He had a temper though, so you could get him going. But it's just it's shocking that there's so many Christians out there. You have a you get they get caught up in fantastical fantasy lore written by other people, modern stuff, whatever. Guys, the book that you claim is the book of your holy book has some of the most insane lore you've ever seen.
Oh no, it
It's
is
just
crazy.
there's
It's
crazy stuff
fantastical.
in there.
Yeah, and keep in
Yeah.
mind that throughout the entire Torah, that Yahweh was with them, or Yahoo was with them, and well, he was,
Yep.
in the stories, he liked gold. He liked good food, and he was given virgins on a regular basis. Now, the controversy over that is not that he was given virgins, it's what he did with them. Were they
Mm,
simply used for what you and I would do with virgins, or did he eat them? That's the only real controversy. But anyway, he is a dragon. He is the great dragon, isn't he? Right?
it's true.
The bad red dragon, the evil dragon, he threw that dragon down because that was a bad dragon. But he is a good dragon, right? And keep that
Well,
in
we need a
mind.
good dragon. Good
Well,
dragons are
he's
important.
referred to as the old dragon many times. and no one seems to reference that. And the Bible, the King James version particularly, left that out. The only time they mention dragons is when they're talking about the ones that are against them. All the
Yes.
references of him as Odonai or the great old dragon are taken out, right? And I know some of you guys who do Hebrew properly are yelling at me with my pronunciation. I don't care. At least I can read it.
I think it's Adonai is how you actually
Yeah, I'm
say
sure my pronunciation sucks. I
it.
can't speak the language. I can just read them.
Well, you're not Jewish,
No.
but most Jews aren't either. Oh,
No. Anyway, what are you doing? It's late. I gotta go.
all right. I have an easy one. I have a quick one. You ready? I came up with this the other day. I think it's a good one. What use, Chester? What good is order if innocents suffer?
Mm, namaste.
That's it.
Go watch The Sound of Freedom.
Go watch it.
Yeah.
It's good.
Later, everybody.